With my beloved husband by my side, we joyously welcomed our precious child into the world. However, my mother-in-law, whom I'll simply call that, had the audacity to declare that our child wasn't adorable. Can you imagine anyone saying such a thing about their own grandchild? To compound matters, she treated me like an unwelcome intruder. Well, I wasn't about to play the victim. This is the story of a narcissistic mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law who refuses to back down. I'm Viola. I married Elwood when I was 28, and our much-awaited son, Ricky, arrived just a year ago. When Ricky was 6 months old, I returned to work and enrolled him in daycare while I focused on my career. Some might criticize leaving such a young baby in daycare, but there were financial realities to consider. Elwood's job was struggling, and his income had dwindled since we married. In fact, I now earn twice as much as he does. With a newborn, expenses were only mounting. So, I made the decision to return to work early. Fortunately, I've always enjoyed my job, so going back wasn't a hardship for me. However, there was one person who strongly opposed my decision. My husband's mother, my mother-in-law. She had moved in with us 3 months earlier. She didn't seem to approve of me, frequently criticizing not only my parenting but also my daily routines. How could you leave such a young child in daycare? You're not fit to be a mother. Traditionally, women stay home to care for the household. What century do you think we're in? She stubbornly clung to these outdated beliefs. Every evening when I returned from work with Ricky, she would start in on me. You're working late again. Don't you feel guilty leaving Ricky? I spend all day with Ricky on my days off. He's doing well at daycare, so it's fine. I'd defend myself. But whenever I tried to reason with her, she'd scowl angrily. You're just taking the daycare worker's word for it. If you keep this up, the child won't turn out right. My mother-in-law, who never lifted a finger to care for Ricky, constantly lectured me about parenting from her self-appointed pedestal. Adding insult to injury, she didn't hesitate to criticize my character. I regret living with a daughter-in-law like you who only cares about work. Why did my son Elwood marry someone like you? I'm stressed out every day. It's driving me crazy. This time, I had finally reached my limit. If it's that unbearable, should we reconsider living together? You know why we agreed to this arrangement, don't you? There was a backstory to why my mother-in-law moved in with us. Originally, she lived in her husband's home until he had a serious traffic accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. Later, it was discovered he also had dementia, making it impossible for her to care for him alone. Reluctantly, she moved him to a care facility. She then insisted we move in with her, but both my husband and I had jobs. Given our daily commutes, relocating from our current home was simply not feasible. Then one day, without warning, my mother-in-law moved her belongings into our house and made herself at home. It was clear that this living arrangement was not something we had agreed upon. She had taken it upon herself to impose it upon us. It was an unwelcome intrusion. Look, I understand that things are difficult for you because of Dad, I said calmly, trying to keep my frustration in check. That's why we agreed to this arrangement. But remember, we also agreed not to interfere in each other's lives, right? Did we? I don't recall agreeing to anything like that, my mother-in-law retorted, her tone dismissive, seemingly confident that she wouldn't be challenged. Her dismissive attitude grated on my nerves. I had had enough. I agreed to this living situation on the condition that we respect each other's boundaries. This is not what we discussed. Oh, stop being so uptight. Why can't you be more like Sil? She's such a sweet, obedient girl, she remarked, aiming a passive-aggressive jab at me. Sil is my sister-in-law, married to my brother-in-law. She's known more for her cunning nature than any outright character flaws. Upon marrying my brother-in-law, she promptly became a full-time housewife and won my mother-in-law's favor. Without her consent, mother-in-law would often invite her over and they would gossip about me behind my back. Did you hear? Viola is still working, mother-in-law would remark. Oh my, really? Ricky is so young. It's hard to believe she manages that, Sil would chime in. You're so clever, unlike Viola who hasn't chosen to be a full-time housewife, mother-in-law would reply, emphasizing the contrast between us. I won't have to worry when you have a child, I assured my mother-in-law respectfully. I'll do my best. Their petty arguments continued incessantly. To my dismay, they would purposely talk in loud voices within earshot. I grew to resent them deeply. Over time, Cecil began to criticize me freely in an effort to win my mother-in-law's favor. You know, she would say, Doesn't my brother-in-law make about the same salary as my husband? Yet you're still working. Could it be that you're not good with money? A few years ago, my husband did earn as much as my brother-in-law, but his earnings have since fallen below that level. I had mentioned to them about my husband's company's declining financial situation. Out of pride, it has now become a regular occurrence that whenever Cecil criticizes me, my mother-in-law eagerly joins in. Exactly, she would exclaim. It's unbelievable how she blames others for her financial mismanagement and childcare responsibilities. Sil, promise me you'll never become a wife like her, right? Of course not. I have so much respect for you, ma'am, Cecil would respond. Oh, Cecil, you're such a dear, my mother-in-law would say with evident approval. Their superficial exchange of compliments makes me cringe. I wish they would take it elsewhere. It only adds to my stress. Feeling at my wits' end living with my mother-in-law, I decided to talk to my husband about it. It's about your mother. She keeps inviting Cecil over every day to criticize me. Huh, Mom does that. I usually get home after you, so I had no idea about this, my husband replied, looking puzzled. Yes, she does. She promised not to interfere, but she's constantly complaining about me continuing to work. Cecil joins in, and they both gang up on me. I can't take it anymore. My husband paused for a moment before saying something unexpected. But Cecil seems to get along well with Mom, right? Maybe you should try to find a middle ground with Mom too. Viola, were you even listening to me? She's dismissing everything I am. How can I connect with someone like that? I pressed my husband, frustration evident. He scratched his head in irritation. Don't get so worked up. Just try to act more like Sil for now. I'm sure Mom will warm up to you, he suggested. What does that even mean? You want me to flatter her like Cecil does? I've had enough. I was foolish to ask for your help. I felt utterly isolated. Frustration bubbled up inside me before giving way to anger. The snide remarks from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law continued unabated. The next day, as I started preparing dinner after returning home, I heard, "Are you planning another half-hearted dinner today? I'm tired of your lazy cooking." That's because she insists on working, you know. If it were up to me or my mother-in-law, we would never serve our husbands such low-quality meals. Right, for the record, my mother-in-law's cooking is nothing to brag about. It's overly seasoned and not particularly delicious. As for my sister-in-law, her domestic skills are quite apparent, considering how often she practically lives at our place. Silently seething, I continued with my dinner preparations. When my husband returned home, both my mother-in-law and Cecil suddenly changed their demeanor and stopped criticizing me. This made my husband doubt my words. Just when everything seemed to settle into a tense routine, an unexpected incident shook things up. I received a call from the daycare center during my work shift. I quickly contacted my husband and rushed home. There, I found my mother-in-law and my tearful son waiting for me. "What do you think you're doing, mother-in-law? How could you take Ricky from the daycare without asking me?" I exclaimed in frustration. My mother-in-law sighed as though weary of the conflict and gave me a condescending look. "What's all the commotion about? I did it for my grandson. Besides, why waste money on a childcare center? Raising a child is a mother's responsibility, isn't it? But that's just your viewpoint, isn't it? We have our reasons for sending Ricky to daycare. Taking him without permission is unacceptable. It's practically kidnapping." Kidnapping? Seriously? Regardless of whether he's my grandson, you ignored the teacher's warnings and took him. That's kidnapping, plain and simple? I made my point, but she simply shrugged it off. Then she said something shocking. "Oh, what nonsense. Neither you nor your son are cute. If you have a problem, just leave." She dismissed her own grandson as not cute. In that instant, alarm bells rang loudly in my mind. To hear her insult her own grandson like that, we couldn't stay with her any longer. I vowed to protect my precious son at all costs. Just then, my husband arrived home. I wasted no time in telling him, "Elwood, it was your mother who took Ricky from daycare. I've had enough. I can't live with her anymore." Suddenly, my mother-in-law played the victim, feigning tears. "Elwood, can you believe what Viola is saying? She's accusing me of kidnapping. I just wanted to pick up sweet little Ricky, that's all. Is it so wrong to want to see him?" Her words sparked my anger. "Stop pretending. You just insulted my son and told me to leave. This is our home, not yours. Are you trying to play the doting mother in front of my husband? Elwood, please help me. Viola is always attacking me. my mother-in-law pleaded, turning to my husband. Watching her dramatic act, I couldn't help but find the situation absurd. If my husband chose to side with her over this poorly staged performance, I knew then it would be just my son and me moving forward together. The first to break the tense silence was my husband. "First, I need to talk with Viola. Mom, please go back to your room," he said firmly. This unexpected stand from my husband, who usually sided with his mother, widened her eyes in surprise. "What are you saying? You don't need to listen to Viola, do you? Can't you see how upset I am? Ricky's involved in this too. That's why I want to have a proper conversation with Viola as his parent," my mother-in-law protested, visibly dissatisfied but reluctant to upset my husband. Later, my husband and I spent hours discussing the incident and all the issues leading up to it, finally reaching a resolution. A few days later, we decided to share the outcome of our discussion with her. "Mom, sorry for the wait. We've reached a decision," my husband said to my mother-in-law with a smile. Judging by her expression, she seemed convinced her son was on her side. She started talking excitedly. "So, you're finally breaking free from Viola, huh?" Without acknowledging what I had just said, my mother-in-law became elated. She immediately called my brother-in-law and his wife, as usual, to criticize me. "What a relief. Today we finally say goodbye to Viola, right?" I replied with a smile. "Absolutely." "Well then, hurry up and leave and take that not-so-cute kid who looks just like you with you. This house will be for me, Elwood, Derek, and Tall from now on. Let's go, Viola," my husband finally spoke up after remaining silent. "Excuse me. Let's go, Elwood." "What? What?" My mother-in-law seemed bewildered, repeating "what" several times. My husband and I began packing our things, preparing to leave with our son. That's when my mother-in-law intervened. "Wait, Elwood, what's happening? We're supposed to live together in this house, right?" "What are you talking about?" My husband turned to her with a stern look. "I'm leaving with Viola. I can't tolerate your behavior any longer." My mother-in-law trembled, then collapsed. "Why? Why would you take her side? I heard everything from the daycare center teacher. How you took Ricky without permission, yelled at the staff, and spoke ill of Viola. Everything. I never expected you to stoop so low, Mom," my husband said sternly. "You've caused enough damage by surrounding yourself with people who only echo your views. Enjoy your life with them." He took my hand and said, "Let's go," guiding me out of the house. Throughout our departure, my mother-in-law called up to him, crying. On our way to our new home, my husband apologized. "I'm sorry. I should have realized sooner. I hope you can forgive me." "What are you talking about? Your actions now mean everything to me," I replied with a smile. Knowing he believed and supported me over his mother was deeply reassuring. Since then, we have cut ties with my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law's family, and we have found peace in our daily lives once again. After we terminated our lease on the house, my mother-in-law, having nowhere else to go, apparently moved in with my brother-in-law and his wife. With her presence adding financial strain, my brother-in-law's income became insufficient. Consequently, Cecil had to find a job, leaving my mother-in-law alone at home. There was no one left for her to gossip with or about. Even her once close relationship with Cecil turned sour, leading to constant arguments. "I have to work because of you, mother-in-law." "Oh, spare me." "What, so now it's my fault? Leave, you old hack." Upon hearing Cecil's true feelings, her husband seemed to have lost his affection for her. I heard they're going through a divorce. Once free to act charming in front of my husband, Cecil's newfound workload and irritability have revealed her true nature. No matter how tough things get for them, I have no desire to reconnect with my mother-in-law. From now on, my husband, my son, and I will focus on building a happy home together.
The crystal glasses clinked as my mother-in-law's perfectly manicured nails tapped against them, demanding attention. My stomach clenched. I knew that look in her eyes. "A toast," Anthea announced to our family gathered around the dining table, "to my son's wonderful achievement at the firm." She paused, her gaze settling on me. "And to Sydney, who I'm sure will make an excellent housewife now that she's settling into married life. I'm Sydney Craig, and 6 months into my marriage, I was already failing at being the daughter-in-law Anthea wanted." The weight of her expectations pressed against my chest like a stone. "Actually," I said, forcing a smile, "I have some news of my own. The Mumbai Chronicle offered me a position as a junior reporter. The silence that followed was deafening. Emery, my husband, reached for my hand under the table and squeezed it. At least someone was on my side. How interesting, Anthea said, her smile never reaching her eyes. Though I'm sure you'll reconsider once you and Emery start thinking about children. I don't plan to give up my career, Anthea. Journalism is my passion. Passion doesn't build a home, dear. She turned to her daughter Aurora, who sat quietly across the table. Remember when Aurora gave up that silly photography hobby? Now she's focusing on what truly matters. Aurora's eyes met mine briefly before dropping to her plate. I'd seen her camera hidden away in her closet, gathering dust. Mom, Emery intervened. Sydney's brilliant at what she does. You should read some of her articles. I'm sure they're lovely, darling. But we Craig women have certain responsibilities. Your father didn't build this empire, so his daughter-in-law could run around chasing stories. My best friend Kira's words from my wedding day echoed in my head. That woman's going to be a nightmare. I should have listened. I can manage both, I insisted. Many women do. Many women aren't Craig women, Anthea replied smoothly, taking a sip of her wine. Now, who would like dessert? Later that night, as Emery and I got ready for bed in our apartment, the tension finally broke. I'm sorry about Mom, he said, pulling me close. She's traditional. Traditional? She's practically Victorian. I buried my face in his chest. Do you remember our wedding day? When she gave that speech about molding me into a proper Craig woman? She means well. Does she? I pulled away to look at him. Because it feels like she's trying to erase everything that makes me. Me. Give her time. She'll come around when she sees how talented you are. My phone buzzed. A text from Ren, my editor at the local magazine where I freelanced. Story approved. Deadline next week. This could be your big break. Speaking of talent, I showed Emery the message. I got the green light on that corruption piece I told you about. His face lit up. That's amazing. See? This is why you can't give up. You're meant for this. Try telling that to your mother. Maybe we should invite her to dinner, just us. Let her see the real you. I laughed. The real me? You mean the one she's been trying to suppress since day one? Sydney. I know. She's your mother. I sighed, sitting on the edge of our bed. But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. This job at the Chronicle, it's everything I've worked for. Then take it, Emery said firmly. I'll support you, whatever Mom says. I looked up at him, this man who stood between two worlds. His mother's traditional values and his wife's modern ambitions. Promise? Promise. He kissed my forehead. Besides, who knows? Maybe Mom will surprise us. But as I lay in bed that night, watching Mumbai's lights twinkle through our window, I knew better. Anthea Craig didn't do surprises. She did expectations. And I had just declared war on every single one of them. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Ren. By the way, heard through the grapevine that Blaze is back in town. Might be competing for the same story. Perfect. Just perfect. My first love and biggest rival from college now thrown into the mix. As if dealing with Anthea wasn't complicated enough. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, but sleep wouldn't come. Tomorrow I'd start my new job at the Chronicle. Step into the newsroom and prove to everyone, especially Anthea, that I could be both a Craig woman and a journalist. Let the games begin. London? I nearly choked on my coffee. You can't be serious. Emery paced our living room, his tie loosened after a long day at the office. It's a huge opportunity, Sydney. The firm wants me to head their European division. And your mother just happened to suggest this to the board? I set my mug down harder than intended, coffee sloshing onto our coffee table. She's looking out for us, he said, but wouldn't meet my eyes. Think about it. London's amazing for journalism, too. I just started at the Chronicle. I grabbed my laptop, pulling up the draft of my corruption story. Look at this. I'm investigating corporate fraud at one of Mumbai's biggest tech companies. This could be huge. The doorbell rang, saving Emery from responding. My heart sank when I opened the door to find Anthea, immaculately dressed as always. Surprise! She breezed past me, air kissing Emery's cheeks. I brought dinner, and the London property listings you asked for, darling. I shot Emery a look. He'd already asked for listings? Actually, Mom, Emery started, we haven't decided. Nonsense, it's practically settled. Anthea spread the glossy brochures across our dining table. This townhouse in Kensington would be perfect for starting a family. My phone buzzed. A message from Ren. Source willing to talk. Meeting tonight. Crucial for the story. I have to go, I announced, grabbing my bag. Work emergency. Anthea's smile tightened. More important than family dinner? It's my job, Anthea. A job you won't need in London, she replied smoothly. The Craig family has connections with all the right social circles there. I turned to Emery. Are you going to say anything? He shifted uncomfortably. Mom's right about the opportunity. Unbelievable. I headed for the door, but Anthea's voice stopped me. You know, dear, I gave up a promising career in dance for this family. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for greater happiness. I spun around. Is that what you tell Aurora about her photography? The room went silent. Even Anthea looked shocked at my outburst. I'll be late, I muttered, hurrying out before anyone could respond. The cafe where I met my source was crowded, but I spotted Kira immediately at our usual corner table. You look like hell, she said as I collapsed into the chair. Anthea's trying to ship us off to London. I ordered an espresso, then lowered my voice. Where's the source? About that. Kira glanced toward the door. Don't freak out. Blaze walked in, looking annoyingly handsome in his pressed shirt and journalist badge. My stomach dropped. You're the source? He slid into the seat across from me. Surprised? I've been working this story for months. Of course you have. I started gathering my things. I'm not interested in your leftovers, Blaze. Even if it involves your father-in-law's company? I froze. What? The tech company you're investigating? Craig Enterprises is their biggest investor. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here, but I want shared byline. Why are you helping me? Because unlike some people, I believe in the story more than the glory. He smirked. Usually. My phone buzzed again. Emery. Where are you? Mom's upset. Please come home. Take it, Blaze said, sliding the drive across the table. But decide fast. Story breaks in 48 hours, with or without you. I stared at the drive. If what Blaze said was true, this story wouldn't just rock Mumbai's corporate world, it would blow my marriage apart. Sydney? Kira touched my arm. You okay? No. I pocketed the drive. But I'm going to do my job anyway. When I got home, the apartment was dark except for Emery's desk lamp. He looked up as I entered. Mom's gone, he said quietly. She left the brochures. I'm not going to London. Sid, no. I pulled out the USB drive. Your father's company is involved in my story. Did you know? His silence was answer enough. Were you ever going to tell me? Or was London just a convenient escape plan? It's complicated, he said. Dad's not directly involved. That's not the point. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. Your mother orchestrated this whole thing to protect the family name, didn't she? She's trying to protect you too, he said softly. Once the story breaks, I don't need protection. I need support. I need my husband to stand with me, not plot my exit strategy with his mother. Emery stood, reaching for me, but I stepped back. I'm staying at Kira's tonight, I said, heading to our bedroom to pack a bag. I need to think. Sydney, please. You know what hurts the most? I paused at the door. I actually believed you when you said you'd support me. Guess your mother was right about one thing. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary. I just never thought I'd have to sacrifice my marriage for the truth. 3 days at Kira's turned into a week. I threw myself into work, writing under the pseudonym Arya Stone to protect my investigation. The USB drive from Blaze proved invaluable, though I hated admitting it. "Your mother-in-law's calling again," Kira said, holding up my phone. "That's the third time today." I kept typing. "Let it ring." And Emery's texted 6 times. I can't deal with them right now. I gestured to my laptop screen. "The story's almost ready. Look at these financial records. They've been siphoning millions through fake contracts." "Sydney," Kira closed my laptop. "You need to go home." "I am home." "To your actual home. To your husband." The doorbell rang before I could argue. Kira answered it, and to my surprise, Aurora walked in, carrying a familiar-looking camera. "Hey," she said softly. "Can we talk?" I nodded, following her to Kira's balcony. The Mumbai sunset painted the sky orange, reminding me of countless evening teas with Anthea where I'd bit my tongue and played the perfect daughter-in-law. "Mom's on the warpath," Aurora said, fiddling with her camera. "She's convinced you're trying to destroy the family." "I'm trying to do my job." "I know." She raised the camera, snapping a quick photo of the sunset. "That's why I brought you these." She pulled out an envelope stuffed with photographs. They showed various Craig Enterprises events, but focused on suspicious meetings between executives and the tech company I was investigating. "You've been documenting everything," I whispered. "Photography's not just a silly hobby." Aurora smiled sadly. "Mom made me stop showing my work, but I never stopped taking pictures." "Why are you helping me?" "Because you're doing what I couldn't, standing up to her." She handed me the envelope. "But Sydney, be careful. Mom's not just angry, she's scared." "Of what? Of you exposing what Dad's company has been doing? Of losing control? Of everything changing?" Aurora took another photo, this time of me. "She made me give up my dreams. Don't let her take yours too." My phone buzzed. "Ren. Story's going to print tomorrow. Last chance to put your real name on it." "I can't use my real name," I said, mostly to myself. "It would destroy Emery." "Maybe that's not your responsibility anymore," Aurora replied. Later that night, I finally went home. The apartment was dark, but Emery was awake, sitting in our kitchen. "You're back," he said, voice rough. "Just to get some clothes." "The story comes out tomorrow, doesn't it?" He stood up. "Mom's lawyer called. They're prepared to sue if—" "Sue?" I laughed bitterly. "For reporting the truth? For defamation? For breaking confidentiality agreements you signed when we married?" "I never signed anything." "Check the wedding paperwork again." He ran a hand through his hair. "Mom thinks of everything." I started toward our bedroom, but he caught my arm. "Wait," he said. "I found an apartment in London. We could leave tonight. Start fresh." "Run away, you mean? Let your father's company keep stealing? Let your mother keep controlling everyone's lives?" "I'm trying to save our marriage." "By helping them bury the truth?" I pulled away. "That's not saving anything, Emery. That's surrender." A key turned in the lock. Only one other person had a key. Anthea walked in, perfectly composed despite the late hour. "I thought I heard voices," she said. "Sydney, dear, you're looking rather tired. London would do wonders for your complexion." "Stop it," I snapped. "Just stop. I know what you did with the wedding paperwork. I know you're trying to silence me." "I'm trying to protect this family. Something you seem incapable of understanding. By forcing Aurora to give up photography? By making me choose between my marriage and my integrity? By ensuring we survive." Anthea's composure cracked. "Do you think I enjoyed giving up dance? That I don't see Aurora's talent? But survival means sacrifice." "No," I said, suddenly calm. "Survival means growth. Change. Evolution. Everything you're fighting against." My phone buzzed one final time. "Ren. Deadline in 1 hour. Your name or the pseudonym?" I looked at Emery, then at Anthea. "The story runs tomorrow, under my real name." "Then you've made your choice," Anthea said coldly. Yes, I replied, heading to the bedroom to pack. I choose truth. I choose integrity. I choose to be someone Aurora can look up to, instead of another cautionary tale about dreams sacrificed on the altar of family reputation. Sydney, please, Emery called after me. We can figure this out. But as I packed my bags, I knew there was no figuring it out. Tomorrow, my name would be on a story that would shake Mumbai's corporate world. Tomorrow, I would stop being Anthea's project and start being myself. Tomorrow, everything would change. The morning my story broke, Mumbai seemed to hold its breath. I sat in the Chronicle's break room, watching my phone explode with notifications while Ren paced nearby. It's been shared 10,000 times already, she said, refreshing her screen. The tech company's stock is plummeting. My hands shook as I scrolled through messages. Kira had sent 17 texts. Aurora, 3 missed calls. Emery, nothing. Sydney? Blaze burst into the room, waving his phone. Have you seen the latest? Your father-in-law just resigned as CEO. Before I could respond, Ren's assistant rushed in. There's someone here to see you, Sydney. Says she's your mother-in-law's sister? Marley walked in, looking nothing like Anthea in her paint-splattered jeans and messy bun. Hey, kid. Got a minute? We found a quiet cafe across the street. Marley ordered espresso while I picked at a croissant. So, she said, you did it. You actually stood up to my sister. How bad is it? Bad enough that she's called a family emergency meeting. Good enough that 3 other whistleblowers have come forward. She leaned forward. But that's not why I'm here. She pulled out her phone, showing me an old newspaper clipping. A young Anthea in a dancer's pose, headlines praising her upcoming debut at the National Theater. What happened? I asked. Father died. Family business was failing. She gave up everything to marry into the right family, save everyone from ruin. Marley sighed. Sound familiar? My phone buzzed. A message from Aurora. Mom's losing it. Come to the house, please. I can't face them, I said. Can't? Or won't? Marley stood up. You wrote the truth, Sydney. Now live with it. The Craig mansion looked smaller somehow as I walked up the driveway. Aurora met me at the door, camera hanging around her neck. Thank God, she whispered. Mom's in the study with the lawyers. Emery just got back from London. London? He flew out right after your story broke, trying to salvage business relationships. The study door opened. Emery walked out, looking exhausted. He froze when he saw me. You're here, he said flatly. Aurora called. Did she tell you Dad's under investigation? That our accounts are frozen? That Mom... He stopped, running his hands through his hair. Why didn't you warn us? Would it have changed anything? We could have prepared. Instead, I spent 3 days watching everything fall apart. Everything was already falling apart. I stepped closer. Your father was stealing millions. Your mother was suffocating everyone's dreams. How long were we supposed to pretend everything was fine? The study door slammed open. Anthea emerged, lawyers trailing behind her. Well, she said, voice ice cold. If it isn't the journalist of the hour. Anthea, no. She held up a hand. You've said quite enough in print. Now you'll listen. She dismissed the lawyers with a wave. Do you know what your story has cost us? Not just money or reputation, but family. Aurora's engagement was called off this morning. The scandal, you see. Aurora gasped. I hadn't known she was engaged. Mom, she protested. That was my choice. I ended it because he tried to make me stop photography, just like you did. And you! Anthea turned on her daughter, sneaking around with that camera, helping her gather evidence. Evidence that was true, Aurora shot back. Truth? Anthea laughed bitterly. Truth is what we make it, dear. I learned that when I gave up dance, when I married your father, when I built this family from nothing. You didn't build it, I said quietly. You buried it. Buried yourself, buried Aurora's talent, tried to bury me. I tried to save you from yourself, By forcing me to choose between my integrity and my marriage? By showing you what really matters. What matters? Emery's voice cut through the argument. How about this? He held up his phone, showing a news alert. Craig Enterprises fraud. More victims come forward. These are real people, Mom, he said. Real lives ruined because we all kept quiet. Because we chose family reputation over right and wrong. Anthea sank into a chair, suddenly looking older. Everything I did for this family. No, Aurora said, raising her camera. Everything you did because of your own regrets. The camera clicked, capturing Anthea's moment of vulnerability. For once, she didn't object. My phone buzzed again. Ren. Magazine wants your story, cover feature. Your journey from wife to whistleblower. I looked at my broken family. Anthea, lost in her fortress of control. Emery, torn between loyalty and truth. Aurora, finally finding her voice through her lens. The magazine can wait, I said, putting my phone away. We need to talk. Really talk. About everything. Why? Anthea asked, voice barely a whisper. Because that's what family does, I replied. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Tell me about the dance recital, I said, setting a cup of tea in front of Anthea. We sat in her private sitting room, surrounded by old photographs I'd never noticed before. Young Anthea in a tutu. Anthea at the bar. Anthea soaring across a stage. It was to be my breakthrough performance, she said, touching one of the frames. Principal dancer, Romeo and Juliet. What happened that night? Father had a heart attack, hours before curtain call. Her fingers trembled around the teacup. The company director said I could postpone. But the hospital bills... Aurora sat cross-legged on the floor, documenting everything with her camera. Click, click, click. Put that thing away, Anthea snapped, but without her usual venom. No, Aurora replied quietly. This needs to be remembered. Marley arrived then, carrying a dusty box. Found it in the attic. Thought you might want these. She pulled out yellowed newspapers, playbills, dance shoes worn to shreds. Anthea's hands shook as she touched them. The night I met your father, she said to Emery, I was wearing these shoes. Last performance before. She swallowed hard. Before I became Mrs. Craig. Why didn't you ever tell us? Emery asked, sitting beside her. What was there to tell? I made my choice. Sacrifice for security. She looked at me. Sound familiar? Except you're trying to force that same choice on everyone else, I said. You're making Aurora hide her talent, trying to make me give up my career. I was protecting you. From what? Following our dreams? Being fulfilled? From disappointment. Anthea stood suddenly, photographs scattering. From having everything you love ripped away because of responsibility. From becoming... She gestured to herself. This. The room fell silent except for Aurora's camera. Click. Mom, Emery said softly. Is that why you pushed the London move? To stop Sydney before she got too invested? I saw the signs, Anthea whispered. The late nights, the passion in her eyes, the way she lit up talking about her work. Just like I used to. Marley pulled something else from the box. A letter, edges worn. Remember this? Your acceptance to the Paris Opera Ballet. You were accepted to Paris? Aurora lowered her camera. 2 weeks after Father died. Anthea took the letter, hands trembling. I burned the original. How did you... I saved a copy, Marley said. Thought someday you'd want to remember who you were, before you started forcing everyone else to forget who they are. My phone buzzed. Ren again. Magazine deadline tomorrow. Are you in? The magazine wants me to tell my story, I said. The whole story. To drag our name through the mud again? Anthea's walls started rising. No, I set my phone down. To tell the truth about sacrifice, about choices, about how trying to protect people from pain sometimes causes more damage than letting them risk getting hurt. They'll paint me as the villain. Only if you keep acting like one. I moved closer to her. But what if instead we tell a different story? About a brilliant dancer who gave up everything for her family, who got so scared of seeing history repeat itself that she forgot something important. What's that? That sometimes the biggest act of love is letting people choose their own path. Aurora raised her camera again, but this time Anthea didn't object. Click. I found your old dance videos, Aurora said. In the attic. You were magnificent. I was free, Anthea corrected, touching another photograph. Until I convinced myself that freedom was selfish. Emery picked up one of the playbills. You could teach, you know. The dance academy downtown is looking for instructors. Don't be ridiculous. At my age... Mom, he interrupted. Stop deciding things are impossible before trying them. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Blaze. More whistleblowers coming forward. Stories getting bigger. Need your insight. The magazine deadline is tomorrow, I said. But I won't write it without your blessing, Anthea. She stared at me for a long moment. Why ask my permission now? You didn't before. Because this isn't about exposing corruption anymore. It's about healing. And I can't help heal this family if I'm still trying to hurt you. Marley pulled one last item from the box, a DVD labeled Final Rehearsal, Romeo and Juliet. What do you say, sis? She asked. Ready to remember who you were? So you can finally see who everyone else is trying to be? Anthea looked around the room. At Aurora with her camera, at Emery holding the playbill, at me with my phone full of deadlines and stories. For the first time, she seemed to really see us. Yes, she whispered. Put on the video. As young Anthea danced across the screen, Aurora kept photographing, documenting not just the past on TV, but the present in the room. The walls coming down. The truth breaking through. Click, click, click. You're really going through with this? Kira asked, adjusting my blazer as we stood outside the Craig mansion. A high tea? After everything? Anthea's idea, I said, clutching my advance copy of the magazine. She wants to face things properly, whatever that means. The garden was set up exactly as Anthea liked. Bone china teacups, silver service, tiny sandwiches arranged just so. Mumbai's elite mingled awkwardly, clearly unsure whether to acknowledge the scandal or pretend everything was normal. Sydney. Blaze appeared, notepad in hand. Quite a turnout. Mind if I cover this for the Chronicle? Actually, I started, but Anthea's voice cut through the crowd. Mr. Phillips, welcome. She glided over, every inch the perfect hostess. Please do stay. I believe you'll find today's events newsworthy. I shot her a questioning look, but she was already moving away, greeting other guests. Aurora circulated with her camera, documenting everything. Where's Emery? I asked when she passed by. Getting Mom's surprise ready, she whispered, then disappeared into the crowd. The guests settled around elegant garden tables. I found myself seated between Kira and Marley, directly across from Anthea. The magazine burned in my lap. Friends, family. Anthea stood, tapping her teacup gently. Thank you for coming. I know recent events have caused quite a stir. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Many of you are wondering why I've gathered you here today. Some might expect damage control, or perhaps a public denouncement of recent revelations. Her eyes met mine. I held my breath. Instead, I want to share something else. She nodded toward the house. Music began to play, the Romeo and Juliet ballet score. Emery emerged carrying a projector screen. Behind him, Aurora set up a laptop. The video from the attic began playing, young Anthea dancing, full of passion and promise. 30 years ago, I made a choice. Anthea continued as her younger self twirled on screen. I chose security over passion, safety over art. And then I spent decades forcing others to make the same choice. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the Anthea they knew. My daughter-in-law recently wrote an expose that shook our family to its core, but she also wrote another story. Anthea gestured to the magazine in my lap. Sydney, would you share it? Hands trembling, I opened to the cover story. The Price of Silence, How 3 Generations of Women Found Their Voice. Read it, Anthea said softly. Please. I cleared my throat. In a mansion in Mumbai, 3 women waged silent wars with their dreams. A dancer who gave up her passion to save her family. A photographer whose lens captures truth in shadows. A journalist seeking stories in the spaces between duty and desire. This is not a story about corruption, though corruption brought it to light. This is a story about the price we pay for silence and the power we find in breaking it. The crowd was silent. On screen, young Anthea continued to dance. My daughter Aurora, Anthea gestured to where Aurora stood with her camera, will be hosting her first photography exhibition next month. And she took a deep breath, will be teaching dance at the Mumbai Academy of Arts, sharing what I should never have hidden. Marley reached for her sister's hand. For once, Anthea didn't pull away. As for Sydney, Anthea turned to me. She has shown me that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is tell the truth, even when that truth hurts, especially when it hurts. Emery appeared at my side, squeezing my shoulder. The gesture said everything we hadn't been able to say to each other since the story broke. The magazine hits stands tomorrow, I said, standing to join Anthea, along with announcements of full restitution to everyone affected by the corporate fraud. Right, Emery? He nodded. Every penny. And the London position? Someone called out. Has been declined, Emery replied. My place is here, supporting my wife's career just as she supports mine. Blaze was scribbling furiously in his notepad. Anthea actually smiled at him. Write what you see, she said. All of it. No more hiding. The video ended with young Anthea's final bow. Present-day Anthea watched herself, tears in her eyes. I spent so long being afraid, she said, mostly to herself. Afraid of losing control, of seeing others make my mistakes, of facing my own regrets. And now? I asked. She straightened her shoulders, every inch the dancer she used to be. Now, I think it's time for a different kind of control. The kind that comes from letting go. Aurora raised her camera one last time, capturing the moment. Anthea and me, standing together. Emery beside us. Marley wiping away tears. The truth finally set free. Click. Well, Anthea picked up her teacup, a real smile playing at her lips. Shall we have some tea? I believe we have quite a lot to talk about. The tension broke. Conversations erupted. And somewhere in the garden of secrets and silence, something new began to bloom. 5 minutes until your first class, I said, watching Anthea adjust her dance shoes in the studio mirror. 2 weeks had passed since the high tea. The magazine story had gone viral, but this moment felt bigger somehow. Anthea returning to dance after 30 years. The leotard still fits, she said, smoothing invisible wrinkles, though I doubt I can still do a proper grand jeté. You don't have to be perfect, I reminded her, just authentic. Young girls in tutus started filing into the studio, whispering when they recognized us from the magazine cover. Aurora set up her tripod in the corner. She was documenting Anthea's journey back to dance for her exhibition. Mrs. Craig? A tiny ballerina tugged at Anthea's sleeve. Is it true you almost danced, Juliet? Before Anthea could answer, Emery burst into the studio. Sorry I'm late. Didn't want to miss this. You came? Anthea's voice wavered. Of course. He hugged her. When have I ever seen my mother dance? The piano started playing. Anthea took her position at the bar, back straight, chin lifted. For a moment, I saw the young dancer from the video, full of dreams and fire. First position, girls, she called out, her voice strong and clear. I slipped out, leaving Aurora to capture the moment. In the hallway, I found Marley hanging old performance photos. She's really doing it, Marley said, adjusting a frame. Never thought I'd see the day. A lot of things I never thought I'd see, I replied. Like you and her talking again. Time heals, so does truth. She handed me a photo. Speaking of which, how are things with Emery? I studied the picture. Young Anthea and Marley at a recital, both smiling. We're working on it. Counseling helps, so does not having to hide anymore. My phone buzzed. Ren. Follow-up story idea. Interview with Anthea about her dance academy? Already ahead of you. I texted back, attaching Aurora's photos from that morning. Music floated from the studio. Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. I peeked in to see Anthea demonstrating a turn, not quite as graceful as her younger self, but somehow more powerful. Mom, that was beautiful, Aurora called out, checking her camera screen. It was sloppy, Anthea replied, but she was smiling. Again, girls. Watch the arms. Sydney. Emery appeared beside me. Can we talk? We found a quiet corner in the Academy's cafe. The same cafe where weeks ago I'd chosen truth over family loyalty. I've been thinking, he said, fiddling with his coffee cup. About London, about everything. Emery, let me finish. I was wrong. Not just about London, but about choosing silence over honesty. About not standing up to Mom sooner. We were all wrong in different ways, I said. Even me. I could have handled the story differently. No. He reached for my hand. You did exactly what needed to be done. Look at Mom now. She's teaching dance. Aurora's planning her exhibition. Dad's making amends. All because you were brave enough to break the silence. Through the window, we could see Anthea's class letting out. Girls streamed from the studio, chattering excitedly. Anthea emerged last, looking tired but alive in a way I'd never seen before. Sydney, she called out when she spotted us. Come here a moment. In the studio, she went to the piano and pulled out an old envelope. I found something you should have. Inside was a newspaper clipping, my first byline from college. How did you get this? Emery used to send me everything you wrote, even when I pretended not to care. She touched the yellowed paper gently. I recognized your talent. It scared me. Because it reminded you of yourself? Because I knew I couldn't control it, just like dance couldn't be controlled. She moved to the bar, assuming first position. But some things aren't meant to be controlled. They're meant to be set free. Aurora appeared with her camera. Mom, can I get a few more shots? The light's perfect. Actually, Anthea said, why don't you give the camera to Emery? Come join me at the bar. What? You have a dancer's build. I've always noticed. Anthea patted the bar. Let's see if photography isn't your only inherited talent. I took the camera from Aurora, watching through the lens as mother and daughter moved through basic positions. Their reflection in the mirror showed matching expressions: concentration, discovery, joy. Click. Sydney? Anthea called out. There's room for one more. Oh no, I laughed. I'm a writer, not a dancer. And I'm a dancer who became a housewife who became a teacher. She held out her hand. Sometimes the best stories are the ones that surprise us. Emery took the camera from me, grinning. Go on, I want to document this. So there we were, journalist, photographer, and reformed control freak, learning basic ballet positions while Emery captured it all on film. And somehow, in that sunlit studio, we found a new kind of family rhythm. Click, click, click. Ready? Aurora adjusted the lighting one last time, her exhibition opening just minutes away. The gallery walls showcased her journey. Candid shots of Anthea teaching dance, moments from my investigation, the high tea revelation. But the centerpiece was different. A massive portrait of 3 generations of Craig women taken in the dance studio. The prodigal daughter returns. Blaze walked in, press badge hanging from his neck. Nice turnout. You're actually invited this time, I teased. No need for the badge. Old habits. He gestured to the crowd gathering outside. Half of Mumbai's media is here. You've started quite a revolution, Sydney. Before I could respond, Kira rushed over. They're here. Anthea entered first, wearing a dress that echoed her old ballet costumes. Behind her, Emery helped Marley carry in a covered frame. "Last addition to the exhibition," Aurora explained, taking the frame. "Mom's idea." The gallery doors opened. People flooded in, drawn immediately to the wall-sized photos. I heard gasps as they recognized faces, pieced together the story told through Aurora's lens. "Sydney?" Anthea touched my arm. "Come with me?" She led me to a quiet corner where the covered frame waited. "Before Aurora unveils this, I want you to see it first." She pulled away the cloth. There, beautifully framed, was my original article about the corporate fraud, side by side with the magazine cover story. Between them, a handwritten note. "To my daughter-in-law, who taught me that the truth doesn't break families. Secrets do." "Anthea." My voice caught. "I was wrong about so many things," she said. "But I was most wrong about you." "Everyone," Aurora called out. "If I could have your attention." The crowd gathered. I noticed familiar faces. Wren from the Chronicle, my sources from the investigation, even some of Anthea's ballet students. "This exhibition is called Breaking Silence," Aurora began. "It's about truth, family, and the courage to be who you really are." She unveiled the final piece. "And it's dedicated to two women who showed me that courage firsthand." Applause filled the gallery. Emery appeared beside me, slipping his hand into mine. "There's something else," he whispered. "Watch, Mom." Anthea moved to the center of the room, her dancer's grace evident in every step. When my daughter-in-law first exposed our family's secrets, I thought she was destroying us. Instead, she forced us to rebuild something better. She gestured to the photos. "These images tell a story of transformation. But transformation isn't just about changing. It's about returning to who you were always meant to be." The gallery lights dimmed. A spotlight appeared. Music began to play. Romeo and Juliet. "Oh my God," I whispered, recognizing the piece from her old rehearsal video. Anthea took position. The crowd fell silent as she began to dance. Not the complex choreography of her youth, but something simpler, more powerful. A dance of redemption. Aurora raised her camera. Click. When the music ended, there wasn't a dry eye in the gallery. Anthea held her final pose, tears streaming down her face. "Brava!" Marley called out, starting a wave of applause. "I have an announcement," Anthea said once the clapping subsided. "The Academy is expanding. We're adding a photography studio and a journalism workshop. Because art isn't just about dance, it's about every voice that needs to be heard." She turned to me. "Sydney, I hope you'll teach some classes. Show others how to tell their truth." "Only if you'll teach me more ballet," I replied, making her laugh. "Deal." The evening continued, but the real story was in the quiet moments. Aurora showing her students around the exhibition. Emery proudly explaining his mother's dance to guests. Marley and Anthea planning the Academy's expansion. "Quite a change from family dinners with perfect table settings," Kira commented, handing me a champagne flute. "Everything's changed," I said, watching Anthea demonstrate a dance position to an entranced group of journalists. "Not everything." Emery joined us. "Some things just got stronger." My phone buzzed. Wren again. But this time I didn't check it. Whatever story was breaking could wait. The real story was here, in this room, in these moments of truth and reconciliation. "Sydney," Aurora called. "Family photo." I joined them under the centerpiece portrait. Journalist, dancer, photographer, all of us exactly who we were meant to be. No more perfect table settings or polite silences. Just truth, in all its messy, beautiful glory. "Everyone ready?" Blaze held up Aurora's camera. "Say truth." We laughed, the sound echoing through the gallery like music, like freedom, like family. Click. The camera captured us mid-laugh, imperfect and real. And in that moment, I realized something. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't endings at all. They're beginnings, disguised as revelations. They're truths, waiting to be told. They're stories, waiting to be lived.
The glass display case shattered under my touch, sending crystal champagne flutes cascading to the floor in a symphony of destruction. My 18th birthday gift to myself, breaking something worth more than 3 months of the unpaid work my parents forced me into. I'm Mary, and I just became a legal adult in a family that treats me like their personal slave. What have you done? Mother's voice cut through the tinkling aftermath. She rushed forward, her designer heels crunching over the debris of our store's most expensive collection. Do you have any idea how much this costs? Exactly 342 hours of my time, I said, letting the inventory clipboard clatter to the counter. I've been counting. Father emerged from the back office, his face already flushed with that particular shade of rage I'd grown familiar with. You ungrateful! Ungrateful! I laughed, the sound sharp enough to match the broken glass at our feet. For what? The privilege of working 60-hour weeks without pay while Ryan gets to skip school and crash cars? Your brother isn't part of this discussion. Mother's perfectly manicured fingers trembled as she tried to salvage a mostly intact flute. This is about your responsibility to the family business. Responsibility. The word tasted bitter. Is that what we're calling exploitation now? Father stepped closer, his shoes leaving crystalline footprints. You live under our roof, eat our food, and slave in your store while you funnel my would-be wages into Ryan's third replacement vehicle this year. I pulled out my phone, displaying the screenshots I'd taken of the store's payment records. Funny how there's no trace of my work anywhere in these books. Mother's face went white. You've been snooping through confidential documents? Confidential? I raised an eyebrow. Or it's just convenient to keep hidden from grandmother Eleanor. The mention of Eleanor's name hit like a physical blow. Mother grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. Your grandmother has nothing to do with this. This is about your future, your legacy. My future, I yanked free. The one where I work myself to death while you two play favorites with Ryan? That's enough. Father slammed his hand on the counter. From this moment on, you'll work double shifts to pay for this damage. No more school activities, no more. No, the word felt like freedom. Excuse me? I said no. I stepped back, surveying the destruction I'd caused. I'm 18 now. You can't force me to work for free anymore. Mother's laugh was hollow. And where will you go? What will you do? You have nothing without us. Watch me. I turned toward the door, my heart hammering, but my steps steady. Oh, and you might want to clean this up before grandmother stops by later. She mentioned wanting to review the store's finances this week. The silence behind me was deafening. I pushed through the door, setting off the cheerful customer bell one last time. Outside, my phone buzzed with a message from Laura at Coffee Corner Cafe. My secret job interview had been successful. I'd been planning this moment for months, squirreling away tips from occasional weekend work there, building an escape fund dollar by dollar. They thought they owned me. They thought wrong. As I walked away from our family's precious tableware store, I could still hear them arguing inside, their voices rising in panic. They didn't know it yet, but I'd made copies of everything I'd found in those financial records. Years of creative accounting, missing payments, and suspicious transactions, all carefully documented and ready to be revealed. This wasn't just about escaping anymore. This was about justice, about revenge, about making them feel as trapped and powerless as they'd made me feel for years. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling to grandmother Eleanor's number. My finger hovered over the call button. Not yet. First, I needed to gather more evidence, build my case stronger, make sure that when I finally struck, there would be no recovery. Let them think they'd won for now. Let them believe their perfect facade was still intact. I had time, and more importantly, I had nothing left to lose. The sound of Ryan's new sports car revving into our driveway made my hands clench around the acceptance letter from Coffee Corner Cafe. 3 cars in 1 year, while I couldn't even get minimum wage for 60-hour weeks. Did you see it? Ryan burst through my bedroom door without knocking, jangling his keys. 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. I folded the letter carefully, sliding it under my physics textbook. Congratulations on your latest reward for failing calculus. Don't be jealous just because you're stuck folding napkins and dusting Crystal. He flopped onto my bed, muddy shoes and all. Maybe if you weren't such a try-hard, Mom and Dad would actually like you. The words stung more than they should have. Get out. Make me. He grabbed my phone from the nightstand, scrolling through it. What's this? Coffee Corner interviews. Interviews? His eyes widened with gleeful malice. Oh, this is good. Wait until Mom. I lunged for the phone. But he danced away, already typing. Ryan, don't you dare. Too late. He tossed the phone back, grinning. Mom's asking you to come downstairs. Now. My heart hammered as I checked my messages. Ryan had forwarded my entire conversation with Laura to our mother. Every carefully planned detail of my secret job search exposed in an instant. Mother's voice carried up the stairs. Mary, living room. Immediately. I found them both waiting, Father having apparently materialized from his office for this particular inquisition. Mother held up her phone, like evidence in a trial. Explain this. There's nothing to explain. I kept my voice steady. I'm 18. I can apply for jobs. After everything we've given you. Father's face reddened. The ungrateful, given me. I cut him off. You mean like the new Porsche you just gave Ryan? Or wait, was that bought with the money you should have been paying me? That's different, Mother snapped. Your brother. My brother what? Needs another car to crash? Needs more rewards for his D- average? The words poured out like acid. Meanwhile, I'm working myself to death for free while maintaining straight A's, and you can't even acknowledge. Enough! Father slammed his hand on the coffee table. You want acknowledgement? Fine, you're acknowledged. From now on, you'll work morning shifts at the store before school, evening shifts after, and full weekends. That's impossible with my course load. Then drop some classes. Mother's smile was razor sharp. Family comes first, dear. Unless you'd prefer to start paying rent. Ryan appeared in the doorway, smirking. Better cancel those cafe dreams, sis. Looks like you're stuck with us. I stared at them, my so-called family, and something inside me hardened into steel. You know what? Keep the store. Keep your manipulation. Keep everything. I turned toward the stairs. Buzz. I quit. You can't quit, Mother called after me. What about college tuition? Your future? I paused on the steps, remembering the financial records I'd photographed. Funny you should mention money. I wonder what Grandmother Eleanor would think about where it's really going. The silence that followed was deafening. When Mother spoke again, her voice had lost its edge. What exactly are you implying? Nothing yet. I met her gaze. But maybe we should all start being more careful about what we hide, and from whom. I climbed the stairs, Ryan's confused questions fading behind me. In my room, I pulled out my phone and dialed Laura's number. I can start tomorrow, I said when she answered. But I need morning shifts, and I need to learn everything. Inventory, ordering, accounting, everything. That's ambitious, Laura replied. Any particular reason? I thought about the documents hidden in my cloud drive, about years of financial manipulation I'd discovered while doing the store's books. Let's just say I'm investing in my future. After hanging up, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Time to start documenting everything. Every transaction, every discrepancy, every lie. My parents thought they were teaching me about family business. Instead, they were teaching me exactly how to destroy one. From downstairs, I could hear them arguing in hushed, panicked tones. Let them worry. Let them wonder exactly what I knew and what I planned to do with that knowledge. They wanted to talk about legacy? Fine. I'd give them a legacy they'd never forget. The numbers didn't lie. They couldn't. Not when I'd spent 3 sleepless nights cross-referencing every transaction, every deposit, every suspicious entry in our store's books. My hands trembled as I stared at my laptop screen. Spreadsheets reflecting in my glasses like digital evidence of betrayal. $500,000. That's what my parents had siphoned from the store over the past 5 years. The same years they'd worked me to exhaustion without pay, claiming the business was struggling. A knock at my door made me slam the laptop shut. Mary, It was Ryan, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Grandmother Eleanor's here. She's asking for you." My stomach dropped. Eleanor's surprise visits usually meant audits. Mother's earlier panic about my threats suddenly made perfect sense. I found Eleanor in the store's back office, elegant as always in her tailored suit. Mother hovered nearby, a forced smile plastered on her face. "There's my brilliant granddaughter," Eleanor said, embracing me. "I hear you've been managing the books lately." Mother's smile tightened. "Mary's just helping with basic inventory." "Actually," I interrupted, meeting Eleanor's sharp gaze, "I've been handling all the accounting for the past year." "Wonderful." Eleanor settled into Father's chair. "Then you can help me understand these quarterly reports. Some figures seem unusual." Mother's hand gripped my shoulder. "Mary needs to prepare for her evening shift. The evening can wait." Eleanor's tone left no room for argument. "David, Linda, why don't you handle the floor? Mary and I have some numbers to discuss." The moment they left, Eleanor's warm demeanor shifted to steel. "Show me everything." My hands shook as I opened my laptop. "Grandmother, before I do, I need to know something. The store, it's technically yours, isn't it? Not theirs." "Legally, yes. I only transferred management rights, not ownership." She studied me carefully. "Why?" Instead of answering, I turned the screen toward her. "Start with the payroll records. Notice anything strange about the employee compensation?" Eleanor's eyes narrowed as she scrolled. "There's no record of your wages." "Because there aren't any. I've worked here 60 hours a week for the past year, unpaid." I pulled up another spreadsheet. "But look where that money went instead." As Eleanor examined the documents, her expression hardened. Each click revealed another layer of deception. Inflated expenses, as hidden accounts, diverted funds. The evidence of my parents' betrayal laid bare in columns and rows. "How long have you known?" she asked quietly. "And I started suspecting when Ryan got his third new car." I swallowed hard. "Then I found these records. They've been using my unpaid labor to cover the money they're stealing from you." A commotion from the storefront interrupted us. Mother's voice carried through the door. "Eleanor, we have some concerns about Mary's accusations." "Accusations?" Eleanor called back, her voice arctic. "I don't recall hearing any accusations. I'm simply reviewing our books with my granddaughter's assistance." The door burst open. Father stood there, face flushed. "Mary, go home now." "She stays." Eleanor didn't look up from the screen. "David, Linda, you might want to call your lawyer. I'm calling mine." Mother stepped forward, desperate. "Whatever Mary's told you, she's twisted the truth. She's jealous of Ryan, bitter about..." "About what?" I stood up, fury finally breaking through. "About you stealing from your own mother. About using me as free labor to cover your tracks. About..." "Enough." Eleanor's quiet command silenced the room. "Mary, send me copies of everything." "Linda, David, I suggest you prepare to explain $500,000 in discrepancies." The color drained from my parents' faces. Father moved toward the laptop, but I was faster, snatching it away. "Too late," I said. "It's all backed up. Every transaction, every lie, every cent you stole." "You ungrateful little..." Mother lunged forward, but Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. "Touch her, Linda, and I'll have you arrested this instant." In the silence that followed, I could hear Ryan in the doorway, his whispered, "Holy shit," echoing my thoughts exactly. Eleanor stood straightening her jacket. "Mary, you'll work directly for me now. Paid, of course." "Linda, David, expect my lawyers to contact you shortly." As she swept out, Mother grabbed my arm. "You've destroyed this family," she hissed. I pulled free, finally seeing them clearly. "No, you did that yourselves. I just exposed the cracks." The store's bell chimed. As Eleanor left, the sound like a death knell for my parents' carefully constructed facade. Their empire of lies was crumbling, and I had lit the match that would burn it all down. Kevin, the auditor's face, remained impassive as he slid another document across Eleanor's desk. "There's more," he said quietly. "The money wasn't just diverted from the store." I leaned forward, my coffee from Laura's cafe growing cold beside me. The past week of working with Eleanor's team had revealed layers of deception I hadn't imagined possible. They've been forging your signature, Kevin continued, addressing Eleanor. On loans, multiple loans, using the store as collateral. Eleanor's fingers tightened around her pen. How much? Another $250,000. He paused. And Mary's name is on some of them, too. The room tilted sideways. That's impossible. I never signed anything. Your 18th birthday, Eleanor said slowly. All those documents they had you sign for insurance purposes. Remember? My throat closed up. The stack of papers Mother had rushed me through. Father hovering nearby with champagne and cake, distracting me with celebrations while I signed away my future. They've ruined you, Samantha, Eleanor's lawyer, spoke from the corner. Financially, legally, you'll be liable for these debts unless we can prove fraud. A knock interrupted us. Through the glass partition, I saw Ryan shifting nervously in the store. Mother and father stood behind him, their faces set in matching masks of concern. They're here for the family meeting, Eleanor said. Mary, you don't have to. I do. I stood straightening my blazer, a gift from Laura after my first week at the cafe. But first, there's something you should see. I pulled up the hidden camera footage on my phone, the one I'd installed after finding the first discrepancies. Mother's voice filled the room. Once Eleanor's gone, we'll transfer everything to offshore accounts. Mary's signature makes her the perfect scapegoat. Eleanor's face hardened. Let them in. The family meeting began like any other, with lies, Mother's practiced smile, Father's confident posture, Ryan's feigned boredom. But something had shifted. I wasn't their puppet anymore. We've prepared a proposal, Mother began, to restructure the business. Into what? I interrupted. Another shell company to hide your theft. Father's smile flickered. Mary, you're clearly confused about the loans in my name. I played the recording. Watched their faces drain of color as their own voices betrayed them. Or about making me the fall guy for your fraud. Ryan shot up from his chair. What the hell, Mom? Ryan, sit down, Mother snapped. Mary's obviously fabricated. Like you fabricated my signature. I pushed forward the loan documents. Or fabricated the store's profits while stealing from your own mother. Everything we did was for this family. Father's fist hit the desk. To maintain our lifestyle. To give you children. To give Ryan everything while working me like a slave. The words burned like acid. To steal my future while planning to frame me for your crimes? Eleanor's voice cut through the chaos. Linda, David, my lawyers will contact you about criminal charges. Ryan, you'll stay with me until this is sorted. Mary, she paused. The store is yours if you want it. Mother lunged forward. You can't. I can and I have. Eleanor's tone could have frozen fire. You've lost everything. Leave now, or I'll have security escort you out. As they left, Mother's threats echoing, Father's shoulders slumped in defeat. Ryan lingered. I didn't know, he said quietly, about any of it. I swear. I studied my brother's face, seeing real fear there for the first time. Neither did I until I started looking. What happens now? I thought about the cafe, about Laura's lessons in honest business practices, about Eleanor's faith in me, about the store that had been both my prison and my inheritance. Now I said, we rebuild, the right way. But as I watched Ryan follow Eleanor out, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. Think you've won? Check your email. My inbox held a single message, screenshots of every questionable transaction I'd made while gathering evidence, twisted to make me look like the thief. Mother's final revenge, beefy venge, already posted across social media. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The social media notification kept buzzing as I wiped down tables at Coffee Corner Cafe. Each ping represented another person believing my mother's carefully crafted lies about me, stealing from the family store. Laura watched me from behind the counter, concern etched on her face. Your hands are shaking, she said quietly, sliding a fresh cup of coffee toward me. I'm fine. The cup clattered against the saucer, betraying my lie. just tired. You're not fine. Laura pulled me aside as another customer walked in. You've been here since dawn, and I saw those posts. We need to talk about. The bell above the door chimed again. Ryan stood there, looking lost, without his usual swagger. Mary, we have a problem. Just one? I laughed bitterly, but stopped when I saw his face. Mom and Dad are selling the store's inventory at half price. All of it. They're liquidating everything before Eleanor's lawyers can stop them. My stomach dropped. The store's collection included irreplaceable antique pieces, Eleanor's legacy, built over decades. That's not all, Ryan continued, lowering his voice. They're telling suppliers you've been forging orders, using the store's accounts for personal purchases. Nobody will work with you once they're done. Laura stepped forward. Mary, take the day. Handle this. I found Eleanor at the store, surrounded by customers fighting over discounted crystal. Mother stood at the register, smile pristine, as she destroyed everything we'd built. Quite the sale, I said, approaching the counter. Shame about the profit margins. Profit? Mother's smile sharpened. Oh, sweetheart, this isn't about profit. This is about consequences. Like the consequences of fraud. I kept my voice low, aware of watching customers. Assisted the distance, or identity theft. Speaking of identity theft, she turned her phone toward me, showing an email draft. These purchase orders with your signature look rather suspicious. One anonymous tip to the police. My hands clenched. You wouldn't. Try me. She leaned closer. You started this war. I'm finishing it. Linda. Eleanor's voice cut through the chaos. Step away from that register. Mother's smile never wavered. Just helping our valued customers, Eleanor. Unless you're suggesting I shouldn't offer discounts? I'm suggesting you stop committing crimes in my store. Eleanor nodded to someone behind us. Kevin, the auditor, stepped forward, accompanied by 2 police officers. We have the warrant, he said quietly. Mother's facade cracked. What warrant? For the security footage, I said, watching her face pale. The real footage, not the edited versions you've been posting, showing you forging my signature, making those transfers. You little. She lunged across the counter, but Ryan pulled me back. Mom, stop. His voice cracked. It's over. The officers moved forward as Eleanor addressed the stunned customers. Due to an ongoing investigation, we're closing temporarily. Please exit the store. As the last customer left, Mother turned to Ryan. You're choosing her side after everything we've given you? Given me? Ryan's laugh sounded like mine now. Bitter, disillusioned. You mean the cars and cash you stole from grandmother? The sister you exploited? Some gift? Mother's mask finally shattered. Everything I did was to protect this family's legacy. No, Eleanor said softly. Everything you did was to protect your control. And now you've lost both. The officers stepped forward with handcuffs. Mother's eyes locked onto mine, burning with hatred. You think you've won? Watch your back, Mary. Family knows all your weaknesses. As they led her away, my phone buzzed with a notification. Father had posted online, heartbroken by our daughter's betrayal. The truth about Mary's embezzlement will shock you. Ryan gripped my shoulder. What do we do now? I stared at the half-empty store, thinking of Laura's lessons in honest business, of Eleanor's faith in me, of the customers who would read Father's lies and believe them. Now, I pulled up my own social media account. We tell the real story. Every receipt, every forged document, every security video. Let's see how their lies hold up against the truth. But as I typed, Mother's warning echoed. Family knows all your weaknesses. She was right about that at least. This wasn't over. It was just escalating into something darker, more personal. And I wasn't sure if I was ready for what came next. The graduation gown felt like armor as I stood in front of my bedroom mirror, diploma hidden safely at Laura's apartment. Mother's voice carried up the stairs, sharp with false concern, as she spoke to relatives arriving for the celebration. My phone buzzed. Another message from the City College's business program. Congratulations on your acceptance. I allowed myself a small smile before footsteps approached my door. Ready for your party? Father didn't wait for an answer before entering. His expression hardened at the sight of my packed bags. Going somewhere? I got into the business program. I kept my voice steady. Full scholarship? Absolutely not. He stepped closer. You have responsibilities here. The store. The store you and Mother nearly destroyed? I met his gaze in the mirror. The one grandmother had to rescue from your fraud? You ungrateful! He caught himself, smoothing his expression. Your mother and I have discussed this. Since you're an adult now, you'll need to start paying rent. $5,000 a month should cover it. The amount hit like a physical blow. That's impossible. You know I can't. Then I guess you'll need to focus on the store instead of wasting time with school. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Family first, remember? This isn't about family. I turned to face him. This is about control. You have 1 hour to decide. He moved toward the door. Rent or store? Choose wisely. Downstairs, Mother was holding court in the living room. Of course we're proud of Mary's graduation, she was saying. But she's been so troubled lately. The stealing, the lies. My hands shook as I dialed Laura's number. No answer. I tried Megan next, then Eleanor. Nothing. A text from Ryan popped up. Mom canceled your party. Told everyone you had a breakdown. They're all leaving. I watched from my window as relatives departed. Mother's poison already taking effect. Another text arrived. From the college this time. Scholarship status under review due to concerns raised about student character. Mother had reached them too. The hour passed like a death sentence. When Father returned, Mother was with him. Well? She examined her manicured nails. Have you made your choice? I lifted my chin. Yes, I choose neither. Excuse me? I won't pay your extortion, and I won't be your slave. I grabbed my bags. I quit. Father blocked the door. Everything you own was bought with store money. Leave it all. Fine. I dropped the bags, keeping only my phone and wallet. Keep it. Oh, we'll keep more than that. Mother's smile turned vicious. Your car, store property, your college fund, frozen. Your reputation? She held up her phone, showing social media posts already spreading lies about my mental breakdown and theft. Destroyed. You can't. We can and we have. Father's voice was cold. You chose this, Mary. Remember that. They followed me downstairs, past Ryan watching wide-eyed from the kitchen, past the graduation decorations, now twisted with cruel irony. One last chance, Mother called. As I reached for the door, stay, work, obey, and all this goes away. I stepped outside into the gathering dark, my graduation gown billowing in the wind. Behind me, Mother's voice carried one final blow. By the way, we reported your car stolen. Police should be here any minute. Good luck explaining that with your new reputation. The door slammed. Through the window, I saw Ryan reach for his phone, probably to warn me, but Mother snatched it away. Sirens wailed in the distance. My phone buzzed with notifications as more lies spread online. The scholarship committee's final decision. Withdrawn due to character concerns. I started walking, each step taking me further from everything I'd known. No car, no money, no reputation, no future. Even my revenge had backfired, leaving me with nothing while my parents spun the narrative to their advantage. Laura's cafe was closed. Megan's house was dark. Eleanor wasn't answering. The sirens grew closer. I ducked into an alley, graduation gown catching on rough brick, and finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, from rage, pure crystallizing rage. They thought they'd broken me. They thought this was my lowest point. They were wrong. This wasn't the end of my revenge. This was just the beginning. Eleanor's heels clicked against the marble floor of the downtown bank, echoing like a countdown. I followed behind her, clutching the USB drive containing every shred of evidence I'd gathered. Kevin the auditor and Samantha the lawyer flanked us, carrying briefcases filled with documented proof of my parents' crimes. They're waiting at the conference room, the bank manager said, his expression grim. All of them. Through the glass walls, I could see Mother and Father seated at the long table, their lawyers surrounding them like guards. Ryan sat in the corner, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Ready?" Eleanor squeezed my hand. I nodded, though my heart hammered against my ribs. The room fell silent as we entered. Mother's perfectly composed smile didn't quite mask her surprise at seeing Eleanor. "Mother, what an unexpected—" "Save it, Linda." Eleanor sat at the head of the table, effectively claiming control. "We're here about the offshore accounts." Father's face paled. "What offshore accounts?" Kevin connected his laptop to the projector. Banking records filled the screen. Transactions, transfers, accounts I'd discovered hidden in the store's books. "Interesting timing," Mother said, her voice honey-sweet with venom, just as Mary's theft allegations come to light. "You mean these allegations?" I pulled up their social media posts, the carefully crafted lies they'd spread. Then I played the security footage, showing Mother forging my signature, Father making late-night transfers. "Inadmissible," their lawyer started, but Samantha cut him off. "The police already have copies, along with evidence of identity theft, fraud, and embezzlement." Mother's smile finally cracked. "You ungrateful little—" "Careful, Linda." Eleanor's voice could have frozen fire. "Think very carefully about your next words." "Or what?" Father slammed his hands on the table. "You'll destroy our reputation, our lives, over some teenager's revenge fantasy?" "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed those yourselves. I'm just exposing the truth." Ryan stood suddenly. "Is it true about the loans in Mary's name?" Mother reached for him. "Ryan, sweetie, you don't understand. Show him," I told Kevin. The screen filled with loan documents, my forged signature on papers dated to my 18th birthday. Ryan's college fund transfers, redirected to hidden accounts. Years of theft disguised as family loyalty. "You said Mary was stealing from us." Ryan's voice cracked. "But it was you. It was always you. Everything we did was for this family." Mother's composure shattered completely. "To maintain our status, our legacy." "My legacy," Eleanor corrected, "which you stole along with Mary's future and Ryan's trust. You have two options." Samantha lays out papers. "Sign control of the store back to Eleanor and face civil charges, or refuse and face criminal prosecution." Father reached for the papers, but Mother grabbed his arm. "We can fight this. Mary's evidence is circumstantial." "Is this circumstantial?" I played one final recording, Mother's own voice, whistling to frame me for their crimes. "Or should we discuss the police report you filed about the car you forced me to leave behind?" The room fell silent, except for the sound of Mother's ragged breathing. "Sign the papers," Eleanor commanded. "Now." Father's pen shook as he signed. Mother stared at me with pure hatred before adding her signature. "Ryan," Eleanor said softly, "go pack your things. You're coming to live with me." As Ryan fled the room, Mother made one final attempt. "You think you've won? That you can run the store better than we did? You're nothing but a child playing at business." "No," I cut her off. "I'm the daughter you exploited, the sister you turned Ryan against, and the businesswoman who caught you stealing from your own mother." I stood gathering the signed papers. "I'm everything you feared I'd become, someone you can't control." "Get out," Eleanor told them. "Your lawyers will hear from ours about restitution." As they left, Mother paused at the door. "Family is forever, Mary. Remember that when you're alone with your precious victory." I'm not alone. I looked at Eleanor, thinking of Laura, Megan, and everyone who'd stood by me. I have real family now, and a legacy built on truth, not lies. The door closed behind them with a final click. Through the glass, I watched my parents walk away, their perfectly crafted world crumbling with each step. Eleanor touched my shoulder. "Ready to rebuild?" I thought of the store, of Ryan, of all the pieces that needed fixing. "Yes," I said, "but this time we do it right." The store's bell chimed. As I unlocked the doors, morning light streaming through newly cleaned windows. The display cases, once stuffed with overpriced crystal, now showcased local artisans' work alongside our traditional pieces, each item tagged with its creator's story, each price fair and transparent. Ryan appeared beside me, his uniform pressed, hair actually combed. First quarter numbers are ready for review. Already? I smiled at his eagerness. These past few months of working together had revealed a different side of my brother, one that actually cared about something beyond instant gratification. Laura's business management tips helped, he admitted, though grandmother's sustainability initiative is what really boosted sales. Eleanor's voice carried from the back office. Speaking of sustainability, she emerged carrying a worn leather portfolio. I found these in the old archives, my mother's original designs for eco-friendly packaging, decades ahead of her time. The portfolio contained detailed sketches of biodegradable containers, reusable gift wrapping, even plans for a recycling program. Why didn't you implement these before? Linda and David said it wasn't profitable enough. Eleanor's expression hardened momentarily. They were always focused on quick returns, not long-term vision. My phone buzzed. Another article about my parents' court settlement. Their faces splashed across business pages, documenting their fall from grace. They'd avoided jail time through a plea deal, but their reputation was destroyed. Last I heard, they'd moved across the country, starting over where nobody knew their story. Still following their news? Ryan asked quietly. No, I put the phone away, just making sure they stay gone. The bell chimed again. Megan entered, carrying coffee corner supplies for our new in-store cafe partnership with Laura. Ready for the Chamber of Commerce meeting? They want to feature us in their small business spotlight. Actually, Eleanor interrupted, I think it's time Mary heard the real reason I wanted to meet this morning. She pulled out another document, transfer papers for complete ownership of the store. My name listed as sole proprietor. Grandmother, I can't. You already are. She smiled. You've been running this place for months. I just made it official. But what about my retirement? She laughed. I'll still be around. Someone needs to help implement these sustainable designs. But this store's future belongs to you now, both of you, she added, nodding to Ryan. The bell chimed once more. A customer entered, one of many who'd returned after our rebranding, drawn by our commitment to ethical business practices and community engagement. As Ryan moved to help them, I studied the store, our store. The walls no longer felt like a prison, but a foundation. Each display told a story of transformation, not just of the business, but of us. There is one condition, Eleanor said, her voice turning serious. In the back office there's a safe. Inside is a letter from your mother. My hands clenched. When? Arrived yesterday. I haven't opened it. Ed. The choice hung heavy. Read it or burn it. Continue the cycle of pain or risk opening old wounds. Whatever you decide, Ryan said, returning from the customer. We're here. I thought of everything that had changed. The store's revival, Ryan's growth, my own transformation from victim to victor. Maybe that's why Mother's final words at the bank still echoed. Family is forever. She was right, but not in the way she meant. Real family, the kind built on trust and truth, was forever. The kind represented by Eleanor's wisdom, Ryan's redemption, Laura's friendship, Megan's loyalty. Keep the letter, I told Eleanor. Maybe someday I'll want to read it, but not today. She nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. Some wounds needed time to heal. Some bridges would remain burned. And that was okay. The morning sun streamed stronger now, catching the crystal displays and sending rainbows dancing across the walls. Each color represented a different path forward. Sustainable practices, community partnerships, ethical business, family healing. Ready to open properly? Ryan asked, holding the day's ledger. I looked around at our transformed world, the cafe corner where Laura would soon arrive, the local art displays, the recycling bins, the transparent pricing, at Eleanor beaming with pride, and Ryan standing tall with purpose. Yes, I said, moving toward the register. We're ready. The store's bell chimed again, welcoming the future.
17 candles flickered on the chocolate cake before me, but all I could focus on was the sound of my parents' voices carrying through the heating vent. Their whispers had turned to hisses, sharp enough to slice through the celebration happening downstairs. We agreed to wait until after her birthday mark. Mom's voice crackled with tension. And what difference will one more day make, Lisa? She deserves to know. I'm Audrey. And this was the moment my life split in two, before and after. The vanilla frosting on my fingertips suddenly tasted like chalk as I pressed my ear closer to the vent, my party dress rustling against the hardwood floor of my bedroom. You're the one who couldn't wait to move in with her, Mom spat. At least I had the decency to... Decency? Dad's laugh was bitter. Is that what you call sneaking around with Ethan for months? My stomach lurched. Ethan. The name wasn't new. He was Mom's work friend, who'd been showing up at school events and family gatherings for the past year. The one with the twin daughters who always looked at me like I was something stuck to their designer shoes. A knock at my door made me jump. Audrey? It was Uncle David. Everyone's waiting downstairs, sweetheart. Your cake's melting. Just fixing my makeup, I called back, scrambling to my feet. In the mirror, my reflection showed a girl trying desperately to hold on to something already broken. The mascara I'd carefully applied was slightly smudged, and the pink dress I'd chosen suddenly felt like a costume. For God's sake, Mark, lower your voice, Mom hissed above me. The guests will hear. Let them hear. I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when you've already moved half your things to his house. The world tilted sideways. Mom was moving out? To Ethan's house? I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling as I typed, SOS, need you here now. Olivia, my best friend, would understand. She always did. The party resumed downstairs like a poorly rehearsed play. Aunt Emma's too bright smile, Uncle David's forced jokes, and my parents standing on opposite sides of the room, both checking their phones more than looking at me. The twins, Mia and Zoe, weren't here. Thank God for small mercies. Make a wish, honey. Mom's voice was syrupy sweet, masking the venom I'd heard upstairs. I stared at the dancing flames, 17 little betrayals flickering before me. What do you wish for when your whole world is about to implode? The cake tasted like ash, but I smiled and nodded at all the right moments. Olivia arrived halfway through, squeezing my hand under the table when she saw my face. She knew. She always knew. We have something to tell you, Dad finally said after the last guest left. He and Mom stood awkwardly in our living room, the birthday banner above them suddenly seeming like a cruel joke. Save it. My voice came out stronger than I felt. I heard everything through the vent. Mom's moving in with Ethan, right? And you've got someone too, Dad? Their faces. God, their faces. Mom's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock, and Dad's usual confidence crumbled like the remnants of my birthday cake. Sweetheart, we were going to tell you properly. Mom started, reaching for me. I stepped back. When? After you'd already moved all your things? After the twins had claimed my room at Ethan's house? That's not fair, Dad cut in. We've both tried to make this work. Fair? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my voice at all. You want to talk about fair? How about deciding to blow up our family on my birthday? It's complicated, Audrey, Mom pleaded. We never meant to hurt you. But they had. And as I stood there, watching them fumble through their explanations and justifications, something hardened inside me. They thought they could just reshape our family like clay, molding it into whatever new form suited them best. They were wrong. I turned and walked upstairs, their voices calling after me. But I was already planning, calculating. They wanted to play happy families with their new partners? Fine. But they were about to learn that some betrayals come with consequences. And I was just getting started. The cardboard box labeled Audrey's room mocked me from the doorway of what was now supposed to be my bedroom in Ethan's house. The walls were a pristine white, sterilized of personality, just like everything else in this place. The twins are excited to have you here, Mom said, hovering behind me. Her voice carried that artificial cheerfulness she'd been using since the divorce announcement 3 weeks ago. I set the box down harder than necessary. Is that why they're hiding in their room instead of helping us move my stuff? They're adjusting, sweetheart. This is new for everyone. New. Right. Like the matching designer backpacks I'd spotted in the hallway, or the family photos already hanging on the walls. Mom, Ethan, and the twins beaming at some beach I'd never been to. The timeline of their relationship was becoming clearer with every detail I noticed. Dinner's at 6, Mom continued. Ethan's making his special lasagna. I have plans with Olivia. Cancel them. The cheerfulness cracked slightly. This is our first family dinner. I turned to face her, taking in her perfectly styled hair and carefully chosen casual outfit. We're not a family. We're the aftermath of your choices. Her face tightened. That's enough, Audrey. I won't have you. Won't have me what? Telling the truth? A door slammed somewhere in the house, followed by giggling. Mom's expression shifted to relief. Girls, come say hello to Audrey. Mia and Zoe appeared in the doorway, mirror images in their matching outfits. Zoe's smile was practiced, but Mia didn't bother hiding her disdain. Nice room, Mia said, her eyes sliding over my boxes. It used to be our study space. Mia, Mom warned. What? I'm just being honest. Like Audrey wants us to be. Zoe stepped forward, all sugar-coated venom. We cleared out the closet for you, most of it anyway. We still need some space for our overflow stuff. I glanced at the closet. Barely a quarter of it was empty. The rest was crammed with their designer clothes and shoes, a clear message about territory and ownership. Thanks, I said flatly. How thoughtful. Girls, why don't you help Audrey unpack? Mom suggested, desperate to manufacture some sisterly bonding. Can't, Mia replied. Dance practice, remember, Dad? Ethan appeared behind them, car keys already in hand. That's right, Princess. We should head out. He barely acknowledged me, focusing instead on Mom. The lasagna's in the oven, 40 minutes at 350. Perfect. Mom touched his arm, and something in their casual intimacy made my stomach turn. Drive safe. After they left, Mom lingered, watching me unpack my life into this sterile space. I know this is hard, but don't. I pulled out my old bedspread, the one thing that might make this room feel slightly like mine. Just don't. She sighed, that martyred sound I was growing to hate. Dinner's at 6. Be there. The moment she left, I grabbed my phone. They're worse than I thought, I told Olivia over FaceTime, showing her the closet situation. The twins have basically claimed everything already. Total power move, Olivia agreed. But you know what this means, right? They're threatened by you. I hadn't thought of it that way. Maybe. Definitely. They wouldn't be marking their territory if they weren't worried about their position. A notification popped up on my phone. A text from Dad. Missing you already, kiddo. The house is too quiet. Another text followed. Sarah's looking forward to meeting you this weekend. Sarah, his girlfriend. The other half of my parents' matching betrayals. Oh God, Olivia said, watching my expression. What now? Dad wants me to meet his girlfriend this weekend. I laughed, but it came out wrong. Apparently, everyone gets a new family except me. Audrey? I should go. Family dinner at 6, remember? Wouldn't want to miss this picture-perfect moment. I ended the call and sat on my bare mattress, staring at the pristine walls. From downstairs, I could hear Mom talking on the phone, probably to one of her friends, spinning this situation into something prettier than it was. But as I looked around this room, this space they expected me to call home, something shifted inside me. They all thought they could reshape reality to suit themselves, but they'd forgotten something crucial. I could play that game too, and I had nothing left to lose. My grandmother's silver locket lay shattered on the bathroom floor, its delicate chain twisted like a broken promise. I stared at it, my hands shaking as I picked up the pieces. The only thing I had left of her, destroyed. Accidents happen, Zoe said from the doorway, her innocence as fake as her designer bag. Maybe you shouldn't leave your things in the shared bathroom. Behind her, Mia smirked. Besides, it looked kind of cheap anyway. I clutched the broken pieces, feeling the sharp edges dig into my palm. This was my grandmother's. Was, Mia emphasized, examining her perfect manicure. The bathroom counter still held their expensive makeup scattered everywhere, taking up all the space. My small cosmetic bag had been shoved aside, teetering on the edge, just like me. Girls? Ethan's voice carried up the stairs. The realtor's here. Realtor. The word hit me like ice water. I followed my stepsisters downstairs, the broken locket burning in my pocket. A woman in a crisp suit stood in our living room, my old living room, clipboard in hand. Dad's house. They were selling Dad's house. Audrey, Mom said brightly, look who's here to help us sell the house. Isn't it exciting? The realtor smiled professionally. The market's excellent right now. With your father's equity and the current rates. What equity? The words escaped before I could stop them. Dad's name isn't even on the deed anymore, is it? Mom's smile faltered. Honey, these things are complicated. I found the paperwork in your study, I continued, watching her face pale. The house transfer to Ethan's name, the new mortgage, the credit card statements. The realtor shifted uncomfortably. Ethan stepped forward, his businessman mask firmly in place. Audrey, this isn't the time. When is the time? When you've sold everything my dad worked for? When you've erased every trace of our old life? That's enough, Mom's voice cracked like a whip. Apologize to Ethan, now. I pulled out my phone instead, scrolling through the photos I'd taken of the documents. Should I apologize for finding out about the second mortgage too? Or the maxed out credit cards? Mia and Zoe had gone silent, their usual smugness replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Good. Perhaps we should reschedule, the realtor suggested, already backing toward the door. No need, Ethan said smoothly. Audrey's just processing some difficult changes. Teenagers, you know? Processing? I laughed. Is that what you call it when you steal someone's house? Audrey Marie Thompson. Mom grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in. Upstairs. Now. Why? So you can hide more secrets? Pretend everything's perfect while you destroy what's left of my life? The realtor was definitely leaving now, mumbling apologizes. Ethan's businessman mask had cracked, showing something darker underneath. Mom's grip tightened. Your father agreed to this arrangement, she hissed. He signed the papers. After you threatened to expose his affair? Yeah, I found those emails too. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the twins looked shocked. Mom's hand dropped from my arm like she'd been burned. How dare you go through my private? I pulled out the broken locket. Like this was private? Like destroying the only thing I had left of Gran was just an accident? Ethan stepped between us. Girls, go to your room. But Dad, Mia started, now. They went, but not before Zoe shot me a look that promised retaliation. I didn't care. The damage was done. You had no right, Mom whispered, her perfect facade crumbling. Those documents were confidential. Like your relationship with Ethan was confidential, while Dad and I thought you were working late? That's enough. Ethan's voice boomed. You will not speak to your mother that way in my house. Your house, I repeated, bought with my dad's money, his reputation, his silence. Does your precious realtor know about the liens, the debt collectors? Mom's face had gone from pale to ashen. How much do you know? I met her eyes, feeling something hard and cold settle in my chest. Everything. And soon everyone else will too. The threat hung in the air between us. Mom took a step forward, but I was already turning away, the broken locket cutting into my palm as I climbed the stairs. Let them worry. Let them wonder what else I'd found, what else I might do. They thought they could erase my past, destroy my memories piece by piece, but they'd forgotten something crucial. Sometimes the things you break come back sharper than before. The spray paint dripped down the pristine white walls of my bedroom, crimson letters spelling out thief in foot-high letters. My laptop lay shattered on the floor, screen cracked like a spider's web. But what made my blood run cold was the empty space where I'd hidden the documents. All my carefully gathered evidence, gone. Mom! Mia's voice carried through the house, perfectly pitched for maximum drama. Audrey destroyed her room. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. I stood in the center of the chaos, pieces clicking into place. The twins had been too quiet lately, too well behaved. They'd been waiting. Oh my God! Mom appeared in the doorway, Ethan right behind her. Audrey, what have you done? Ask your perfect stepdaughters. My voice came out steady, despite the rage burning in my chest. Ask them about the documents they stole. Documents? Ethan's expression shifted, something calculating replacing his usual stern disapproval. What documents? Zoe appeared, eyes wide with manufactured innocence. We found her going through Dad's office last night. We tried to stop her, but... Liar. The word came out like a whip crack. Then explain this. Mom gestured at the walls, her hands shaking. Explain why you're destroying our home. Your home, I laughed. You mean the home you bought with Dad's blackmail money? Ethan stepped forward. All pretense of fatherly concern gone. Where are the papers, Audrey? Gone. I met his gaze. Somewhere safe, like the copies I made. The twins exchanged a look. Real fear this time. They hadn't known about the copies. That's enough. Ethan's voice was steel. You're grounded. No phone, no computer, no... You can't ground me. You're not my father. No, he agreed, something ugly twisting his features. Your father is a weak man who couldn't keep his family together, who couldn't even keep his house. Mom flinched. Ethan, please, lock her in. He turned to the twins. Watch her. If she tries to leave, call me immediately. You can't keep me prisoner, I said, but the click of the lock echoed with finality. Through the door, I heard Mom's protests fade down the hallway, Ethan's low voice smoothing things over. The twins stationed themselves outside, their whispered conversation a constant reminder of my captivity. My phone was gone, taken by Ethan. But they hadn't found the burner phone Uncle David had given me, hidden in a hollow book. Another thing they'd overlooked while searching my room. I pulled it out, fingers trembling as I typed, "It's happening. They found the documents, need extraction." The response came quickly. On my way, 20 minutes, be ready. I looked around the destroyed room at the evidence of their desperation. They thought they'd won, thought they'd contained the threat, but they'd forgotten about the email I'd scheduled to send automatically if I didn't stop it by midnight. An email containing everything I'd discovered, set to reach every board member of Ethan's company, every family friend, every person they'd been trying to impress. A soft tap at the window made me jump. Olivia crouched on the roof outside, her face grim. She'd used the old oak tree, our escape route since middle school. "Jesus, Audrey," she whispered as I eased the window open. What did they do? Tried to frame me. Failed. I grabbed my emergency bag from under the bed. The twins are outside. Not anymore. Her smile was fierce. I told them their car was being towed. They ran to check. Below, I could hear their panicked voices, the sound of running feet. Perfect. Uncle David's waiting 2 blocks over, Olivia said, helping me onto the roof. You sure about this? I thought about the broken locket, the stolen house, the countless small cruelties. They wanted to lock me away, make me disappear. But I'm not the one who's going to disappear. The oak tree creaked as we climbed down, autumn leaves providing cover. In the distance, a car engine idled, Uncle David waiting to help me turn the tables. Let them find my empty room. Let them discover what real betrayal feels like. They thought they could cage me, control me, break me down piece by piece. But they were about to learn. Sometimes the prey becomes the predator, and I was done being prey. Uncle David's study smelled like old books and secrets. I sat in his leather chair, surrounded by the evidence I'd gathered, while Aunt Emma placed a steaming mug of tea beside me. The automated email had gone out hours ago. By now, Ethan's board members would be reading everything. Your mother's called 6 times, Uncle David said, checking his phone. Ethan's called twice that many. Let them. I spread out the documents across his desk. Bank statements, transfer records, emails. They're probably discovering what happens when their perfect world crashes. Aunt Emma touched the broken locket around my neck. She'd helped me repair it with gold wire, making the cracks part of its beauty. Are you sure about this, sweetheart? Once you start down this path, the doorbell rang, its chime echoing through the house. Through the study window, I saw Mom's car in the driveway, Ethan's right behind it. I'll handle this, Uncle David said, but I stood up. No, I will. My hands didn't shake as I opened the front door. Mom burst in, mascara smeared, clutching her phone. What have you done? Exactly what you taught me, I replied. I protected myself. Ethan shouldered past her, his business suit wrinkled, eyes wild. Do you have any idea what you've caused? The board is calling an emergency meeting. My investors are discovering how you really built your empire. I stepped back, letting them follow me into the study. With blackmail and fraud? It wasn't like that, Mom pleaded. We were trying to build something better for all of us. Better? I picked up a document from Uncle David's desk, like forcing Dad to sign over his house by threatening to expose his affair, or helping Ethan hide money from his ex-wife, the twins' mother. Ethan went still. How did you find out? The same way you taught your daughters to go through my things. I learned to look deeper. Mom sank into a chair, her perfect facade crumbling. We never meant to hurt you. No, you just meant to hurt everyone else. I turned to Ethan. Does your board know about the offshore accounts? The shell companies? His face contorted. You little... Careful. Uncle David cut in, his voice steel. Think very carefully about your next words. A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I saw Dad getting out of his car, looking lost in a way I'd never seen before. The police will be involved, Ethan said, trying to regain control. This is corporate espionage. Actually, Aunt Emma spoke up, it's whistleblowing, and Audrey has excellent documentation. The front door opened again. Dad's voice carried down the hallway. Lisa, what's going on? The board just called me. He appeared in the doorway, stopping short at the sight of us all. His eyes found mine, recognition dawning. You, he whispered. You did this? I learned from the best, I said. All of you taught me how to destroy a family. Mom started crying, soft broken sounds that would have moved me weeks ago. Now they just fueled my resolve. The board meeting's in an hour, I continued, gathering the documents. They'll want to know about the missing funds, the forged signatures, everything. Please, Mom reached for me. We can fix this. We're still family. Family? I pulled away. Family doesn't lock each other in rooms. Family doesn't destroy precious memories or steal houses or send emails destroying lives. Dad's voice was quiet. The words hit like a slap. I looked at them all. Mom's tears, Dad's disappointment, Ethan's rage, Uncle David and Aunt Emma's concern. You're right, I said finally. I learned destruction from experts. I picked up my grandmother's repaired locket, its golden scars catching the light. But I also learned something else, something none of you figured out. What's that? Mom whispered. That broken things don't always break even. I moved toward the door, documents in hand. Sometimes they break free. Behind me, Ethan started making threats. Mom began pleading again, and Dad just stood there, silent. But I was already walking away, toward Uncle David's car, toward the board meeting that would change everything. They'd taught me how to break things. Now I would teach them how it felt to be broken. And maybe, just maybe, we'd all learn how to put ourselves back together again. The boardroom felt like a tomb, all polished wood and accusatory silence. 12 pairs of eyes watched me from around the massive table as I laid out the evidence, every dirty secret, every hidden transaction. My hands didn't shake, but my heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape. These are serious allegations, the chairman said, his voice carefully neutral, especially coming from a teenager. A teenager who had access to private corporate documents, another board member added, her tone sharp. How did you obtain these, Miss Thompson? Before I could answer, the doors burst open. Ethan strode in, followed by his lawyer. The twins appeared behind them, and my stomach dropped. They shouldn't be here. This meeting is a farce, Ethan announced. My stepdaughter broke into my home office, stole confidential documents. After you locked me in my room, I cut in. After you and your daughters destroyed my belongings. Mia stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. That's not true. We loved you, Audrey. We tried to be family, but you were so angry, so jealous. Jealous, I laughed. The sound brittle. Of what? Your perfect little act? Of our mother, Zoe said quietly. Our real mother. The one Dad kept from us, just like these documents show. The room went still. I looked at the twins, really looked at them, and saw something I'd missed before. Pain that mirrored my own. Is this true? The chairman turned to Ethan. Did you hide assets from your first wife? He did more than that, I said, pulling out the final document. He forged her signature, Mia finished. We knew. We always knew. Ethan's face went white. Girls, we thought if we helped you hide things from Audrey, you'd finally tell us the truth, Zoe continued. About Mom, about the money, about everything. The victory I'd imagined crumbled as I watched the twins break down. They weren't the enemy. They were just like me, pawns in our parents' games. This isn't about corporate fraud anymore, the chairman said gravely. This is a family matter that spilled into our boardroom. No, I protested. This is about justice. Is it? Mia's voice cracked. Or is it about hurting people before they can hurt you? The documents in my hands suddenly felt heavy, poisonous. I'd been so focused on revenge, I'd become exactly what I hated. The police have been called, Ethan's lawyer announced. Breaking and entering, theft of corporate documents. Your client committed actual crimes, I shot back, but my voice wavered. And you committed several trying to expose them, he replied smoothly. How does that make you different? The chairman stood. This meeting is adjourned pending a full investigation. Security will escort everyone out. As guards appeared at the doors, I saw Mom in the hallway, crying into Uncle David's shoulder. Dad stood nearby, looking lost. The perfect families everyone had tried to build were shattering, and I'd helped swing the hammer. Was it worth it? Zoe asked as we were led out. Destroying everything? I touched my grandmother's repaired locket, its golden scars catching the fluorescent light. I thought it would feel different. It never does, she replied, and I realized she was speaking from experience. Revenge just makes you more alone. Outside, police cars were arriving, their lights painting everything in harsh red and blue. The evidence I'd gathered would expose Ethan's crimes, but at what cost? I'd become so focused on breaking them, I'd broken something in myself too. Olivia appeared from nowhere, keys in hand. Time to go. Running won't help, Ethan called after me. You'll just prove you're exactly what they think you are. But as I slid into Olivia's car, watching my fractured family in the rearview mirror, I realized he was wrong. I wasn't what they thought I was. I was worse. And now I had to live with that. The police station's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Mom's face as she sat across from me in the interview room. Her designer outfit looked wrinkled, her makeup smeared, the perfect facade finally cracking. Drop the charges, she said quietly. We can still fix this. Like you fixed Dad's life, or the twins' mother. I traced the scar on my palm where the broken locket had cut me. Some things can't be fixed. You don't understand what you've done. Her voice trembled. Ethan's being indicted. The company's shares are plummeting. Your father is facing fraud charges too, I know. The words tasted like ash. That's what happens when secrets come out. The door opened. Ethan's twins entered, followed by a social worker. They looked smaller somehow, their matching outfits replaced by worn hoodies and jeans. Tell them, Mia demanded, her eyes red-rimmed. Tell them you lied about everything. But I didn't lie. I met their gaze. You know I didn't. Our mother called, Zoe said. First time in 3 years. She wants to know if what the papers are saying is true. About Dad hiding money from her. About the forged documents. Mom reached for them, but they stepped back. Girls, please. Don't. Mia's voice cracked. You knew too. About everything. You helped him keep us from her. The revelation hung in the air like smoke. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw something I'd missed before. The same calculated manipulation she'd accused Ethan of. Is that why you chose him? I asked. Because you recognized yourself? Her face crumpled. I chose him because he understood. About doing whatever it takes to build something perfect. Perfect? Zoe laughed bitterly. Is that what you call this? The social worker stepped forward. Girls, we need to discuss your temporary living arrangements. They'll stay with me, a new voice said. We all turned to see the twins' mother in the doorway, a woman I'd only seen in old photos. She looked tired but determined. I've already filed for emergency custody. You can't, Mom started, but the woman cut her off. Like you couldn't tell me where my daughters were for 3 years? Her smile was sharp. The court disagreed. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. News is everywhere. You okay? Was I? I looked at the wreckage around me. Mom's tears, the twins' confusion, their mother's righteous anger. I'd wanted justice, but this felt like something else entirely. Audrey, Mom pleaded, think about what you're destroying. Our family was destroyed the moment you decided lies were more important than love. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I just exposed the truth you all tried to bury. And what did it cost you? Mia asked quietly. Look at yourself. You're just as alone as we are now. She was right. In my quest for revenge, I'd become what I hated most, someone who broke things to feel powerful. The social worker checked her watch. The detective needs to continue your statement, Audrey. I nodded, touching my grandmother's repaired locket one last time. The golden scars caught the harsh light, reminding me that broken things could be beautiful, but only if you were honest about the breaks. I'm sorry, I said, surprising myself. Not for exposing the truth, but for becoming like you all in the process. What happens now? Zoe asked, her voice small. Now? I looked at each of them. Mom, the twins, their mother. Now we learn to live with the truth. All of it. As I walked out, leaving them with their shattered illusions, I felt something shift inside me. The satisfaction I'd expected from my revenge was hollow, but something else was taking its place. Understanding, maybe. Or forgiveness. Not of them, but of myself. Because in the end, the perfect family we'd all tried to force into existence was just another lie. And sometimes, breaking apart was the only way to build something real from the pieces, even if those pieces would never fit together quite the same way again. Uncle David's attic held the last pieces of my old life, packed away in cardboard boxes. As I sorted through them, a letter fell from between my grandmother's photo albums, yellowed paper, her elegant handwriting still crisp after all these years. Found something? Aunt Emma asked from the doorway. I unfolded the letter carefully. It's dated 3 days before she died. My dearest Audrey, the letter began. By the time you read this, you'll understand that families break in ways that can't always be mended. But remember, broken pieces can create new patterns if you're brave enough to arrange them differently. The doorbell rang downstairs. Through the attic window, I saw Mia and Zoe on the porch, looking smaller than I remembered. It had been 2 weeks since the police station, since everything fell apart. They've been calling, Aunt Emma said softly. Every day this week. I know. I touched my repaired locket. Their mom got custody. And your mother? Agreed to therapy. Not that it matters now. I folded the letter carefully. Dad's plea deal went through yesterday. Aunt Emma's hand touched my shoulder. You don't have to see them. But I was already heading downstairs, grandmother's letter in my pocket. The twins looked up as I opened the door, their usual confidence replaced by something more fragile. We found this, Mia said, holding out a small wooden box. In Dad's study, after they seized everything. I recognized it immediately. My grandmother's jewelry box, the one that had disappeared during the move. We didn't know what it was then, Zoe added quickly. We just did what Dad asked, hid things he gave us. Like you hid the truth about your mother? The words came out sharper than intended. Yes. Mia's voice cracked. Like that. I took the box, feeling its familiar weight. Inside, tangled with old necklaces, was a key I recognized. To my father's house, the one Ethan had claimed. The prosecutors said we could give it back, Zoe explained, since it wasn't part of everything else. Why are you really here? They exchanged looks, mirror images of uncertainty. Because we understand now, Mia said finally, about wanting to break things that hurt you. But we also understand about trying to fix them, Zoe added. I thought about my grandmother's letter, about broken pieces and new patterns. Some things can't be fixed. No, Mia agreed, but maybe they can be rebuilt, differently. From my pocket, I pulled out my phone, showing them the unsent email I'd been staring at for days, the one that would expose the last of Ethan's secrets, destroying what little remained of their family's reputation. Do it, Zoe said quietly, if it helps you heal. We understand now. But as I looked at them, really looked at them, I saw what my revenge had created. 2 girls as broken as I was, trying to build something real from the ruins of their lives. I deleted the email. Your mother, I said finally. Is she better than the lies we were told? Mia smiled slightly. Different than we imagined, but real. Real is good, I said, thinking of my grandmother's words. Real we can work with. They nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. We weren't friends, might never be family, but we were something else now. Survivors of the same storm, learning to rebuild. The prosecutors want to talk to us again next week, Zoe mentioned, about Dad's other accounts. I know. I touched my locket. I'll be there. They turned to leave, but Mia paused. For what it's worth, we're sorry about everything. Me too, I said and meant it. After they left, I sat on the porch steps, reading my grandmother's letter again. The evening light caught the golden scars of my repaired locket, reminding me that some breaks become part of the pattern, telling stories of what was lost and what was found. I couldn't fix what was broken, not the families we'd lost, not the trust we'd shattered. But maybe, like the locket, we could create something new from the pieces, something real, with all its scars and imperfections, something true, and maybe that was enough.
The sound of breaking glass shattered the silence of our empty house. I froze at my desk, pen hovering over half-graded biology papers, heart suddenly thundering against my ribs. No one should be home. Dad was at work, Emma was at college, and Rachel was visiting her sister in Portland. I'm Lauren, and after 25 years of predictable suburban life, I knew every creak and groan of our Victorian home. This sound didn't belong. Another crash echoed from downstairs, followed by muffled cursing. My fingers found my phone, thumb hovering over the emergency dial. The smart thing would be to call the police. Instead, I grabbed the heavy brass paperweight from my desk and crept toward the stairs. The intruder was in Dad's study. Moonlight spilled through the bay windows, illuminating a familiar silhouette I hadn't seen in 19 years. My mother, Sarah Miller, was rifling through Dad's filing cabinet like she still owned the place. "What the hell are you doing here?" The words escaped before I could stop them. She whirled around, clutching a manila folder to her chest. Her face had aged, but those sharp green eyes, my eyes, hadn't changed. "Lauren," her voice was exactly as I remembered, soft and musical, completely at odds with the situation. "You've grown so tall. Get out before I call the police." My grip tightened on the paperweight. "You won't." She smiled that knowing smile that used to comfort me during thunderstorms. Now it made my stomach turn. "You want answers too badly." "Answers?" I barked out a laugh. 19 years too late for those, don't you think? She glanced at her watch, then the window. "I don't have time to explain everything now, but you need to listen carefully. Things aren't what they seem. Your father—" "Don't you dare talk about Dad. You lost that right when you walked out on us." "I didn't walk out, Lauren. I was forced to leave." Her eyes darted to the doorway behind me. "There are things you don't understand. Dangerous things. Watch out for Olivia. She's not who you think she is." "Who's Olivia?" Instead of answering, she tucked the folder into her jacket and moved toward the window. "I have to go, but I'll be in touch when it's safe." She paused, one foot on the window seat. "Your sister Mia asks about you." The paperweight slipped from my numb fingers, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. "My what?" But she was already gone, disappearing into the darkness like she had 19 years ago. Only this time, she left behind more than just abandonment. She left questions that burned like acid in my throat. I stumbled to Dad's desk and flipped on the lamp. The filing cabinet drawer hung open, its contents in disarray. Whatever she'd taken, she'd been looking for something specific. My hands shook as I tried to make sense of the scattered papers. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text from an unknown number. "Delete this immediately. Trust no one, especially not Olivia. She's been watching your father for years. I'll explain everything soon. Mom." I stared at the message until the screen went dark, my mind racing. A sister named Mia, someone named Olivia. Dangerous things. My mother's sudden reappearance after nearly 2 decades of silence. None of it made sense, but one thing was crystal clear. The carefully constructed stability of my life had just been shattered like the glass still glittering on the study floor. The front door opened downstairs. "Lauren?" Dad's voice called out. "You home?" I quickly closed the filing cabinet and kicked the broken glass under his desk. "Up here," I called back. deleting the text message with trembling fingers. His footsteps on the stairs gave me just enough time to school my features into neutrality, but inside, something dark and determined was taking root. My mother might have left me with nothing but questions, but I was going to find answers, no matter the cost. 3 days after my mother's midnight visit, I found myself staring at an unfamiliar bank statement on Dad's computer. The numbers didn't add up. Regular monthly transfers of $5,000 to an account I'd never seen before, all tagged with the initials OH. "What are you doing in here?" Emma's voice cut through my concentration. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, looking more like Rachel every day. I minimized the window. "Research for work." The lie came easily. "What brings you home from college on a Tuesday?" "Dad asked me to help organize the charity gala." She lingered, eyes narrowing. "You've been acting weird since Sunday night. Did something happen?" "Nothing happened. Everything happened. Just stressed about work." Emma moved closer, perching on Dad's desk. "You were always a terrible liar, Lauren. I heard you and Dad arguing yesterday." "Eavesdropping now? When you're shouting about Mom? Yeah, I am." She picked up a framed photo of our family, before Sarah left, before Rachel, before everything fractured. Why bring her up after all this time? I studied my sister's face, wondering how much to reveal. "Don't you ever wonder why she left?" "No." Emma set the photo down with deliberate care. "And neither should you. We have Rachel now. We're happy." "Are we?" The door downstairs opened, followed by voices. Dad and a woman I didn't recognize. Emma straightened, suddenly alert. "That's Olivia, Dad's new business partner." My heart stopped. OH, the bank transfers. "Lauren," Dad called up. "Come down, please. There's someone I'd like you to meet." Emma was already heading for the stairs. I closed the banking window and followed, each step feeling like lead. The woman standing in our foyer was striking, tall, elegant, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You must be Lauren," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I've heard so much about you." I shook her hand, noting her grip was just slightly too tight. "Funny, I haven't heard anything about you." "Lauren," Dad warned. "No, it's fine," Olivia laughed. "I prefer to fly under the radar, but your father and I have some exciting plans for the family business." "I wasn't aware we had a family business." Dad cleared his throat. "Olivia's helping me diversify some investments. Actually, that's partly why I wanted you here. We're hosting a gala next week to announce our new venture." "What venture?" The question came out sharper than intended. "Conservation projects," Olivia answered smoothly. "Your father mentioned you work in wildlife education. We'd love your input." Something in her tone set off warning bells. I remembered Mom's text, "Trust no one, especially not Olivia." "I should get back to work," I said. "Nice meeting you." "Lauren," Dad's voice stopped me halfway up the stairs. "We need to talk about Sunday night." I turned back. Olivia was watching me with calculated interest, while Emma seemed suddenly fascinated by her phone. "Nothing to talk about," I said. "Unless there's something you want to tell me." The silence stretched thin. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. "I thought not." I continued upstairs, but not before catching Olivia's whispered comment to my father. "She's gonna be a problem, Michael." Back in the study, I pulled up my phone and searched Olivia Hayes' business ventures. Pages of results appeared, mostly charity galas and conservation fundraisers. But buried in the archives was an article from 15 years ago, Hayes Industries under investigation for wildlife trafficking. The article had been removed, leaving only the headline. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me tomorrow, Cafe on 4th, 2 p.m. Come alone. MS." Below it was a photo, recent, showing a young girl with Sarah's eyes and my smile. "Mia." I heard Olivia laugh downstairs, followed by Emma's eager response. The sound grated against my nerves like steel on glass. Whatever game Olivia was playing, whatever connection she had to my mother's disappearance and these mysterious payments, I was going to figure it out. But first, I needed to meet my sister. I glanced at the family photo Emma had been holding earlier. Behind the smiling faces, I could now see the cracks forming, the secrets that would eventually tear us apart. Tomorrow, I'd start putting the pieces back together. Or maybe I'd discover they were better left shattered. The cafe on 4th Street buzzed with afternoon crowds, but I spotted Sarah immediately. She sat in a corner booth, Mia beside her, both their heads bent over what looked like homework. My half-sister. The reality of her existence hit me harder in daylight. "You came." Sarah's smile wavered as I slid into the booth. "Mia, this is Lauren." Mia looked up, green eyes mirror images of my own. "I know, I've seen your pictures." Before I could respond, Olivia Hayes materialized beside our table. "What a charming family reunion." Sarah went rigid. "You followed me?" "Insurance, darling." Olivia's perfectly manicured hand came to rest on Mia's shoulder. "We wouldn't want anyone making impulsive decisions." "Get your hand off my sister." The words came out before I could stop them. Olivia's smile sharpened. "Sister? Interesting choice of words, considering you just met." But then again, family is such a fluid concept these days. Just ask your father about the conservation project contracts. "What about them?" "Lauren, don't," Sarah warned. "Oh, she doesn't know?" Olivia slid into our booth, forcing me to move over. "Your father's signature on those contracts? Forged. The real documents are quite different, but proving that would mean admitting to years of fraud, wouldn't it, Michael?" My father stood at the cafe entrance, face ashen. He must have followed me here. "Dad?" "It's not what you think," he started. "It never is," I said, pieces clicking into place. "The monthly payments, the sudden partnership with Olivia. You're being blackmailed." "Blackmailed is such an ugly word," Olivia mused. "I prefer mutually beneficial arrangement." "Your mother understood that eventually. Didn't you, Sarah?" Sarah pulled Mia closer. "I understood you'd destroy everything if I didn't play along. And now history repeats itself." Olivia's gaze locked onto mine. "Lauren here has been poking around where she shouldn't, accessing private financial records, asking questions about old news articles. Tell me, dear, how's your job at the Wildlife Center?" My blood ran cold. "What did you do?" "Nothing yet, but one phone call about certain irregularities in your research permits." "That's enough," Dad's voice cracked like a whip. "Leave my daughters out of this." "Daughters?" Olivia laughed. "Which ones? The ones you claim or the one you abandoned?" Mia's pencil snapped in her grip. "You don't get to play that card," I said, anger burning away my fear. "Not when you're the reason our family fell apart." "No, Lauren." Sarah's voice was quiet. "Olivia didn't break our family. We did that ourselves with every secret we kept, every truth we buried. She just exploited the cracks that were already there. And I'll keep exploiting them," Olivia said pleasantly, "unless everyone remembers their place. Michael, the contracts need your real signature by tomorrow. Sarah, our mutual friend, needs those permits processed. And Lauren," her smile turned predatory, "stop digging, or your sister, any of them, might face consequences you're not prepared for." She stood, smoothing her designer suit. "Lovely chat. Mia, darling, remember what we discussed about your future?" We watched her leave in suffocating silence. "How long?" I asked Dad. "How long has she been pulling our strings?" "Since before your mother left." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "The wildlife trafficking investigation. I found evidence, but by then it was too late. She had everything documented, every shortcut I'd taken to save the business during the recession." "So you let her drive Mom away? Let her threaten us?" "I thought I was protecting you." "Well, you failed." I stood up, hands shaking. "And now she's doing it again with Mia." Sarah reached for my arm. Lauren, please, we can't fight her. Not directly. Watch me. I pulled away, mind already racing with possibilities. You might have given up, but I haven't, and I won't let her hurt anyone else in our family. Lauren, Dad called after me, but I was already walking away. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Smart girl, wrong choice. Check your email. The Wildlife Center had terminated my position, effective immediately. Cited concerns about ethical violations in my research. I smiled grimly. Olivia thought she'd won, thought she'd scared me off, but she'd just given me nothing left to lose. Game on. Ben Carter's office at the Wildlife Sanctuary felt like the last safe place in my unraveling world. He studied the documents spread across his desk. Bank statements, permit applications, and the fragments of Olivia's past I'd managed to piece together. This goes deeper than wildlife trafficking, he said, tapping a financial report. These shell companies, the way the money moves, it's not just animals she's smuggling. What else? Could be anything. Drugs, weapons. He hesitated. People. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. You think she's involved in human trafficking? Your mother's sudden departure, the control over your father's business. Now Mia. He let the implications hang in the air. A knock interrupted us. Ethan Brooks, my former colleague, stood in the doorway. Lauren, you need to see this. He pulled up a video on his phone. Security footage from the sanctuary's research facility. Emma, my sister, accessing restricted files at midnight. When was this? Last night, right before someone leaked those fabricated research violations that got you fired. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. She's working for Olivia. Or being forced to, Ben suggested. Like your father. My phone buzzed. Rachel, my stepmother. Emma's in the hospital. She tried to... Lauren, please come. The drive to the hospital was a blur. I found Rachel in the waiting room, mascara streaked down her face. What happened? They're calling it an accident. She took too many sleeping pills. Rachel's hands twisted in her lap. But she left this for you. A folded note, Emma's hurried handwriting. Storage Unit 23, Red Oak Facility. The truth about Mia, I'm sorry. Dad appeared in the hallway, Olivia at his side like a shadow. Lauren, what are you doing here? Checking on my sister, or is that not allowed anymore? Now isn't the time for, Dad started, but Olivia cut him off. Actually, it's the perfect time. Emma's accident is unfortunate, but perhaps it will remind everyone what's at stake when they make impulsive choices. The threat in her voice was unmistakable. She'd done this, pushed Emma to this point as a warning to me. You won't get away with this, I said quietly. Olivia smiled. I already have, for 19 years. Ask your father about the night your mother really left, about what he chose to protect. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Or better yet, Olivia continued, ask yourself why Mia's birth certificate lists me as her legal guardian, not Sarah. The world tilted sideways. What? Visiting hours are over, a nurse announced. We'll talk more at the charity gala tomorrow, Olivia said smoothly. One big happy family. I waited until they left before showing Rachel the note. I need to check this storage unit. I'm coming with you. Rachel's voice was steel. Emma's my daughter. If Olivia did this to her... The storage facility was deserted at dusk. Unit 23's lock clicked open with Emma's code. Inside, we found filing cabinets full of documents, adoption papers, medical records, court orders, and photographs. Olivia with a much younger Sarah, both in lab coats. Mia as a baby, surrounded by medical equipment. Oh, God, Rachel whispered, reading one of the files. Lauren, Mia wasn't born. She was created, some kind of genetic experiment. Olivia and Sarah were research partners before. My phone rang. Ben. Lauren, get out of there now. I found the connection. Olivia's research facility, the one that burned down 19 years ago, They were developing biological weapons. Your mother was her partner until she tried to expose them. And Mia was their prototype. Headlights swept across the storage unit's entrance. A car door slammed. "She's here," Rachel hissed. I grabbed the most damning files and shoved them into my bag. Back exit, now. As we slipped into the darkness, one thought burned in my mind. Mia wasn't just my sister. She was living proof of Olivia's crimes, and tomorrow at the gala, everyone would know the truth. Unless Olivia killed us all first. The charity gala sparkled with false promises and champagne bubbles. I adjusted my wire, Ben's voice crackling in my earpiece. "Cameras are looped. You've got 20 minutes to access Olivia's office." Across the ballroom, Olivia held court near the donor wall, one hand possessively gripping Mia's shoulder. My sister, no, my father's genetic experiment, smiled that practiced smile that suddenly made terrible sense. "Ready for this?" Ethan appeared at my elbow, playing his part in a perfectly tailored tux. "Just keep her distracted." He nodded, moving toward Olivia with the confidence of someone carrying 8 figures in donation promises. I slipped away, heels silent on the marble floors. Olivia's office door yielded to Emma's keycard, my sister's last gift before her accident. Inside, the air felt thick with secrets. I headed straight for the hidden safe Ben's thermal scan had revealed. The combination was Mia's birthday. Of course it was. "Someone's coming," Ben warned in my ear. "Security patrol." I grabbed the files and started scanning. Project Phoenix, genetic modifications, human trials, dates matching Mia's conception. And there, buried in the medical jargon, my mother's signature on the original research papers. Footsteps approached. "Lauren?" Dad's voice. "What are you doing here?" I turned, documents clutched to my chest. "Finding out why Mom really left. What you and Olivia did to Mia." His face crumpled. "We were trying to save lives. The research could have cured genetic diseases, but Sarah, she thought we went too far. So Olivia forced her out, threatened her." "She threatened you." His voice broke. "Said she'd make you disappear next. I had to choose." The door opened again. Sarah stood there, looking elegant and haunted in black silk. "I chose too," she said quietly. "I chose to run, to protect what was left of my daughter's humanity. But I failed." "Time's up," Ben warned. "Olivia's heading your way." "Did you know," I demanded, "about Emma? What Olivia did to her?" "Emma was getting too close," Sarah whispered. "Like I did, like you are now." "Lauren," Olivia's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Family meeting in my office? How convenient." She entered with Mia, closing the door with a decisive click. "I see you found Project Phoenix. Sarah, darling, you should have burned those files when you had the chance." "It's over," I said. "I'm taking these public." "Are you?" Olivia smiled. "Mia, show your sister what you can do." My 8-year-old sister raised her hand. The files in my grip burst into flames. I dropped them with a cry. The papers crumbled to ash, my skin untouched. "Genetic modification has come so far," Olivia mused. "Mia's generation will be perfect, enhanced, superior." "She's a child," Sarah protested. "Not your weapon." "I'm whatever I choose to be," Mia said, her voice eerily adult. "And I choose power." "The gala guests are getting suspicious," Ben's voice crackled. "Lauren, get out now." But Olivia blocked the door. "You have one chance, Lauren. Join us. Help perfect what your parents started, or join Emma in her unfortunate accident." "Don't threaten my daughter." Dad stepped forward. "Your daughter?" Olivia laughed. "Check your DNA, Michael. Lauren's not yours. She's the first successful Phoenix trial. Sarah's little insurance policy." The world tilted. Sarah's sharp intake of breath confirmed it. "That's why you really left," I realized. "Not to protect me from Olivia, to protect me from becoming like Mia. Enough talking. Olivia drew a small remote from her clutch. Choose, Lauren. Family loyalty or family destruction. You have 30 seconds before this building's security system suffers a catastrophic failure, with all these wealthy donors trapped inside. My earpiece crackled with Ben's panic. Ethan's voice in the background confirming the security systems were compromised. I looked at my mother, my creator, at my father, my protector, at Mia, my future. I choose neither, I said, and felt something spark inside me, a power I'd never known I had. The sprinklers activated, but what rained down wasn't water. It was justice, and it was about to burn everything to the ground. Chaos erupted in Olivia's office as the sprinkler system released a caustic chemical cocktail. Through the burning haze, I watched my newfound powers manifest, sparks dancing between my fingers like tiny lightning bolts. Get everyone out! Ben's voice crackled through the failing earpiece. The building security systems are going critical. But Olivia stood unmoved, a cruel smile playing across her face. Finally, she breathed, the dormant genes have activated, just like they did in Mia. Mia stepped forward, her small hands glowing with an intense blue light. We're the same now, Lauren. We can be a real family. We're not a family, I spat. We're your experiments. The door burst open. Emma stumbled in, pale but alive, supported by Rachel. Lauren, stop. The chemicals, they're triggering mutations in the guests downstairs. Horror crawled up my throat as screams echoed from the ballroom. What had I done? Beautiful, isn't it? Olivia moved to the window overlooking the chaos below. Project Phoenix was never about curing diseases. It was about evolution, forced adaptation. She turned to Sarah. Your daughter just helped me achieve what 19 years of research couldn't, mass activation. You planned this, Sarah whispered. You knew Lauren would discover the truth, that she'd try to expose you tonight. Of course. Why do you think I let Emma find those files? Why I pushed her to that accident? Olivia's laugh was sharp as broken glass. I needed Lauren's powers to manifest. Rage is such a reliable trigger. My father lunged for Olivia, but Mia raised her hand. He froze mid-motion, suspended by invisible force. Dad! Emma tried to run to him, but Rachel held her back. The whole family together, Olivia mused. Sarah's failed experiment, Michael's betrayal, Emma's weakness, and my 2 successes. She gestured to Mia and me. Choose now, Lauren. Join us willingly, or watch your family suffer the consequences of your resistance. The power inside me surged, desperate for release. But as I raised my hands, Mia's energy field expanded, trapping us all in a shimmering bubble. I learned control years ago, she said, sounding decades older than 8. You're just beginning. You can't beat me. She doesn't have to, Emma's voice rang out. She pulled away from Rachel, revealing a syringe. The neutralizing agent from your lab, Olivia, the one you used on the failed subjects. Before anyone could move, Emma plunged the needle into her own arm. Her body convulsed. No, I screamed, but Mia's field held me back. Fascinating, Olivia observed as Emma collapsed, sacrificing herself to activate your protective instincts. But will it be enough? The sprinklers sputtered out. Through the window, I could see people running, their bodies distorting, powers manifesting uncontrollably. My fault. All my fault. Time to choose, Lauren, Olivia pressed. Your sister's life depends on it. The neutralizing agent will kill her without the proper counter serum, which only I have. Sarah moved toward Emma's crumpled form. You're lying. There is no counter serum. Are you willing to bet Emma's life on that? My powers flickered weakly. Everything I'd done to protect my family had only put them in more danger. Emma dying, Dad frozen, Rachel watching helplessly, Sarah trapped in her own guilt, and Mia? Mia lost to Olivia's manipulation. Tick-tock, Olivia sang, Emma has minutes at most, and those people downstairs, their mutations will be permanent soon, unless I join you, I finished numbly. Smart girl. Together, we can control them all. Guide humanity's evolution. She extended her hand. What's your answer? Emma's breathing grew ragged. Dad remained suspended, his eyes pleading. Through the window, the city blazed with newfound powers, run amok. I reached for Olivia's hand, and everything went dark. When emergency power kicked in, Olivia's smile had turned predatory. Welcome to the family, Lauren. Now let's remake the world. Behind her, Mia's expression mirrored my own despair. We weren't survivors of Project Phoenix. We were its weapons, and I just handed Olivia the keys to our destruction. 3 days after surrendering to Olivia, I watched her parade her enhanced subjects through private demonstrations for military contractors. Each person from the gala now exhibited unique abilities, all under her control through the chemical cocktail she'd perfected. Emma remained unconscious, kept alive by machines in Olivia's private lab. The counter serum existed, but each dose came with a price: my compliance. Beautiful progress, Olivia remarked, reviewing data on her tablet. Your genetic markers are particularly fascinating, Lauren. So much untapped potential. I stood at her side, playing the dutiful protege while my powers churned beneath my skin. Beside me, Mia's expression remained carefully blank. Did you know, Olivia continued, that Mia was technically your daughter, not your sister? We used your embryonic cells to create her. Sarah's contribution was merely gestational. The world tilted. I met Mia's eyes, seeing my own shock reflected there. Why tell us now? Mia asked, her voice trembling for the first time since I'd known her. Because family is everything. Olivia smiled that serpentine smile. And it's time for a family reunion. Bring them in. The lab doors opened. Guards escorted my parents in, Sarah, Michael, and Rachel. Their hands were bound with power-dampening cuffs. The gang's all here, Olivia announced. Well, except Emma, but she's serving a greater purpose as our motivation, aren't you, Lauren? I said nothing, but the lights flickered with my barely contained rage. Now, Olivia activated a screen showing Emma's vital signs. Let's discuss the next phase. The military wants a demonstration of coordinated, enhanced combat. Lauren, you and Mia will. No. The word escaped before I could stop it. Olivia's smile hardened. No. I've watched your demonstrations, studied your research. The neutralizing agent Emma took, it's not fatal, it's a catalyst. I stepped forward. You never had a counter serum because you never needed one. Emma's not dying, she's transforming. The monitor tracking Emma's vitals began beeping rapidly. Clever girl. Olivia's laugh held no warmth. But knowing the truth doesn't change anything. I still own you, all of you. You're wrong. Mia moved to stand beside me. A daughter should stand with her mother, her real mother. Power surged between us, electricity arcing from my hands meeting Mia's blue energy. The combined force shattered our parents' restraints. Security, Olivia shouted, but the doors remained locked. Looking for this? Ben's voice came through the intercom. On the security screens, he and Ethan had control of the facility's systems. It's over, Olivia, Sarah said. The military contractors outside, they're FBI. We've been feeding them evidence for days. You planned this? Olivia's composure cracked. Impossible. Lauren joined me willingly. No, I advanced on her. I joined you to understand, to learn how you controlled the enhanced subjects, and now I know how to free them. The sprinkler system activated, but this time the chemical spray was different. A neutralizing compound of my own design, created from my blood while playing Olivia's apprentice. You can't! Olivia lunged for the controls, but Mia's force field held her back. The power, the evolution, you'll destroy everything. Evolution isn't meant to be controlled, I said. Neither are we. Emma burst through the lab doors, her skin glowing with newfound power. Did I miss the family reunion? Olivia screamed in rage, her own hidden modifications manifesting in desperate fury. She launched herself at me, but found herself caught between 4 generations of power, mine, Mia's, Emma's, and Sarah's long-dormant abilities. Funny thing about evolution, I said as our combined energy consumed her. It favors adaptation over control, and we've adapted beyond you. The explosion of power that followed reduced Olivia's legacy to ashes, while the compound in the sprinklers ensured every enhanced subject retained their free will. As alarms blared and FBI teams swarmed the facility, I held Mia close, feeling the truth of our connection. Not weapon and wielder, not sister and sister, but mother and daughter. Both victims of Olivia's ambition, both survivors of her manipulation. What now? Mia asked softly. I looked at our assembled family, broken, rebuilt, and stronger for it. Now we heal, together. The power within me settled, no longer a curse or a tool for revenge, but a reminder that the strongest evolution comes from love, not control. The wildlife sanctuary felt different in the aftermath. Sunlight streamed through the renovated windows, illuminating the empty cages where Olivia once kept her test subjects. Now they served as rehabilitation spaces for injured animals, a fitting transformation. I watched Mia work with a young fox, her powers gentle and controlled. She'd grown inches taller in the months since Olivia's fall, but her eyes held decades of understanding. The leg's healing well, she said, letting the blue energy fade from her hands. Just like us. The door opened as Emma wheeled in her latest patient, a hawk with a broken wing. Her own abilities had stabilized into something beautiful, the power to accelerate healing in living things, a perfect counter to my capacity for destruction. Dad's here, she announced, with the final test results. Michael entered, looking older but lighter, the weight of secrets finally lifted. The genetic modifications are permanent, he said, but stable. No signs of degradation in any of the subjects who chose to keep their abilities. And those who wanted them removed? I asked. The neutralizing compound worked. They're fully human again. He hesitated. Sarah wants to know if you've made your decision. I touched the vial in my pocket, the last dose of the neutralizer, enough for one person to erase all traces of Project Phoenix from their system, the choice Olivia never gave her subjects. I'm keeping them, I said. These powers are part of who I am now, who we all are. Even knowing how they came to be? Rachel appeared in the doorway, carrying coffee and files. She'd taken over the sanctuary's administrative duties, turning it into a legitimate research facility. Especially knowing, Mia answered for me, we're not experiments anymore, we're evolution. Ben and Ethan arrived with lunch, spreading files across the break room table. The FBI was still uncovering the extent of Olivia's network, but her empire had crumbled. Her remaining loyalists had scattered, their enhanced abilities either neutralized or turned to better purposes. Speaking of evolution, Ben said, sliding a document toward me, the genetic therapy program is ready for review, using your combined abilities to cure genetic diseases, the way Project Phoenix was supposed to work. Before Olivia corrupted it, Emma added quietly, I studied the proposal, remembering Olivia's final moments, not her defeat in the lab, but later, in her prison cell. Her last words still echoed, you'll understand someday when the power becomes everything. Control is inevitable. But she was wrong. The proof sat around this table. My family, broken and rebuilt, stronger in the broken places. Sarah joined us last, carrying Olivia's old research tablet. I found something, she said, about the original Phoenix trials. There were others before Lauren, children who survived. The room fell silent. How many? I asked. 3, all adopted, all living normal lives. They don't know what they are. What they could be, Mia corrected. I felt the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. These unknown siblings deserve to know the truth about their potential, but they also deserve the peace of ignorance, something I could never reclaim. We protect them, I decided. Monitor from a distance. If their abilities ever manifest, we'll be there to help. But we don't force evolution, not anymore. Emma squeezed my hand, her healing energy mingling with my destructive force. Opposite powers, working in harmony. The sanctuary needs a new name, Rachel suggested, something that honors what we've become. I looked at my gathered family, not just blood relations, but the bonds forged in fire. Michael and Rachel, finding strength in honesty. Emma and Mia, sisters transcending their origins. Sarah, Ben, and Ethan, proving loyalty survives betrayal. Phoenix Foundation, Mia said suddenly, not for Olivia's project, but for us, what we rose from. I smiled, feeling the power pulse beneath my skin. No longer a weapon or a curse, but a reminder. Evolution isn't about control or revenge. It's about adaptation, growth, love. Phoenix Foundation, I agreed, where broken things learn to fly again. The fox in its cage chirped softly, its leg nearly healed. Tomorrow we'd release it back into the wild, but tonight we'd gather as a family, carrying our scars and our powers, our past and our potential. Some would call it redemption. I called it evolution.
Money can't buy peace, but revenge might. That's what I kept telling myself as I stared at the text message burning through my phone screen. 18 years of silence, and now this. Dinner tomorrow? I have something important to tell you. Mom. I'm Harmony, and my mother's definition of important has always been questionable. The last important thing she told me was that she was going out for groceries. I was 12. She never came back. My fingers hovered over the phone. Delete would be the smart choice. That's what my therapist would say, what Ben would advise, what every self-help book on abandonment issues would recommend. But there I was, in my corner office overlooking downtown, letting that message derail my entire afternoon. The Henderson contract needs your signature, Laura said, poking her head through my door. She stopped when she saw my face. You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse. I heard from Linda. Laura's professional demeanor cracked. Your mother, after all this time? I turned my screen toward her. The message glowed like a warning sign. Are you going? Laura asked, perching on the edge of my desk. I shouldn't, but you will. I nodded, hating how well she knew me. I need to know why now. Why after I've finally built something for myself? You mean after you've become successful enough to be interesting? Laura's tone carried an edge I rarely heard from her. Your father should know about this. My father. The man who worked double shifts at his bakery to keep me in dance classes after Linda left. Who never said a bad word about her, even when I was screaming and breaking things in our kitchen at age 13. I'll tell him, I said, though the words felt like stones in my mouth. After I see what she wants. Laura's face softened. Want me to come with you? No. Whatever this is, I need to face it alone. The rest of the day blurred past in a haze of signatures and meetings. I barely registered the details of the Henderson contract, my mind spinning with possibilities. Was she sick? Dying? Had she finally run out of whatever she'd been chasing when she left us? That evening, I sat in my car outside the restaurant she'd chosen. Some trendy place downtown, the kind that served tiny portions on massive plates. Of course she wouldn't suggest meeting at my father's bakery. That would require acknowledging too much history. My phone buzzed. Ben. You don't owe her anything, his text read. I typed back, I know, but I owe myself answers. Inside, the host led me to a corner table. And there she was, looking exactly like the woman who haunted my memories, yet somehow smaller. Her hair was still that artificial shade of blonde, her makeup still perfect. She stood when she saw me, arms opening for a hug I had no intention of giving. "Harmony," she said, my name sounding foreign on her lips. "You look successful." I sat down without touching her. "What do you want?" "Can't a mother want to see her daughter?" "A mother? Is that what you're calling yourself now?" She flinched but recovered quickly. "I deserve that. I know I do. But I'm hoping... Well, I wanted you to meet someone." That's when I noticed the young woman approaching our table from the direction of the restrooms. 19, maybe 20, with Linda's eyes and my father's dark hair. My stomach dropped as understanding dawned. "This is Mia," Linda said, beaming like she was presenting a prize. "Your sister." The world tilted sideways. All these years, I'd imagined her starting fresh somewhere, building a new life. I never imagined she'd built a whole new family. "Half-sister," I corrected automatically, my voice coming from somewhere far away. "And how long have you been keeping this particular secret?" Linda's smile faltered. "Harmony, please. I wanted to tell you so many times." "When? Between abandoning me and replacing me?" Mia slid into the seat beside Linda, watching me with careful interest. "I've wanted to meet you for so long," she said softly. I looked between them, noting their matching necklaces, their easy familiarity. Everything Linda had denied me, she'd given to this girl instead. "Well," I said, reaching for my purse, "now you have." But Linda's next words froze me in place. "We need your help, Harmony. And I promise once you hear us out, you'll understand everything." I gripped my steering wheel, knuckles white, staring at my father's bakery sign, glowing in the evening darkness. The conversation with Linda and her perfect replacement daughter still burned in my throat like acid reflux. Dad needed to know. He deserved to hear it from me, not through small-town gossip. The bell chimed as I pushed through the door, the scent of fresh sourdough wrapped around me like a familiar embrace. But tonight it couldn't calm my racing heart. "We're closing in 10. Dad's voice trailed off when he saw me. He wiped his flour-covered hands on his apron. "Twice in 1 week? Should I be worried?" I forced a smile. "Can't a daughter visit her father?" "Not when she's wearing her power suit at 8 p.m. He studied my face. "What's wrong?" The words stuck in my throat. Instead of answering, I walked behind the counter and started helping him clean, just like I used to as a teenager. The rhythmic motion of wiping down surfaces gave me courage. "Linda's back," I said finally, keeping my eyes on the counter, "and she brought company." The cleaning cloth in Dad's hand went still. "Company?" "My sister." The word tasted bitter. "Half-sister. She's 19. The silence that followed was deafening. When I looked up, Dad had aged 10 years in 10 seconds. He gripped the edge of the industrial mixer for support. 19, he repeated, doing the math. So when she left, she was already pregnant. The rage I'd suppressed at dinner bubbled up. "She wants something, Dad. They both do. Some kind of help with their real estate ventures." Dad's laugh was hollow. "Real estate? That's rich coming from her." "What do you mean?" He shook his head. "Nothing. Ancient history." But there was something in his tone, a bitterness I'd never heard before. The bell chimed again. Uncle Frank walked in, carrying his usual evening paper. He stopped short when he saw our faces. "Who died?" he asked, then noticed the tension. "David. What's wrong?" "Linda's back," Dad said, "with her other daughter." Frank's newspaper crumpled in his grip. "That conniving little..." He caught himself glancing at me. "Sorry, Harmony. But after what she did with those property deals before she left..." "Frank," Dad warned, but I was already latching on to this new information. "What property deals?" "It's not important now," Dad said quickly. "Like hell it's not." I turned to Frank. "What deals?" Frank looked between us, then sighed. "Your mother was more than just a realtor, Harmony. She was running a scheme, convinced several of David's friends to invest in fake development projects. When she disappeared, she took their money with her." The room spun. I steadied myself against the counter. "How much?" "Nearly $500,000, Dad said quietly. I paid most of them back over the years. It's why we had to sell the house. All those double shifts, all those years of living above the bakery. I'd always assumed it was just because we couldn't afford the house after Linda left. Never once had I imagined. And now she's back, I said, pieces clicking into place, asking for help with real estate ventures. History repeating itself, Frank muttered. My phone buzzed, a text from Mia. Mum says you left dinner upset. Can we meet tomorrow? Just us? I showed the message to Dad and Frank. Don't, Frank said immediately. She's Linda's daughter. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But Dad's expression was thoughtful. Or maybe she's like you, Harmony. Maybe she needs to know the truth about her mother, too. I typed back a quick agreement to meet, my mind already racing with possibilities. If Linda was planning another scheme, Mia might be the key to exposing it, either as an innocent informant or a willing accomplice. I need to know what they're planning, I said, before anyone else gets hurt. Dad touched my shoulder. Just be careful. Your mother? She has a way of making everything sound reasonable until it's too late. I hugged him, breathing in the familiar scent of flour and coffee. I learned from the best how to spot a con artist, I said. She taught me that lesson the day she walked out. As I left the bakery, my phone buzzed again. Mia had suggested meeting at a coffee shop downtown. Perfect. Right across from my office where Laura could keep an eye on things. This time I'd be ready for whatever game Linda was playing. And if Mia was part of it, well, she'd learned that her big sister hadn't spent the last 18 years learning how to forgive. The numbers didn't lie. I'd been staring at property records for 3 hours, and with each document, the pit in my stomach grew deeper. Linda hadn't just returned to play Happy Families, she'd been systematically shadowing my real estate investments for months. Look at this, I said, pushing my laptop toward Laura. Every property I've shown interest in over the past year has a competing bid from shell companies, all traced back to her. Laura leaned closer, frowning. That can't be coincidence. It gets worse. I pulled up another screen. Remember that deal I lost last month? The Victorian conversion project. Someone spread rumours about structural issues that didn't exist. Guess who toured the property the day before? Mia, Laura whispered, connecting the dots. My phone buzzed. Speaking of the devil, another text from my perfect little sister. Coffee was great yesterday. Mum's excited about your interest in our development project. I hadn't shown any interest. I'd spent the entire coffee meeting deflecting questions about my business while Mia probed for information about my investment strategy. I'd been so focused on getting intel from her, I hadn't realized she was doing the same to me. The office door opened. Ben walked in, his face grim. You need to see this. He handed me his tablet, open to a local business newsletter. My stomach lurched at the headline. Rising Star Developer Faces Questions About Project Viability. They're quoting anonymous sources, Ben said quietly, claiming you've been inflating property values and misleading investors. The room tilted sideways. These were the exact accusations that had destroyed Linda's reputation before she disappeared, the same crimes she'd actually committed. She's trying to make me look like her, I said, my voice strange in my ears. Turn me into the villain of her story. My phone rang. Dad, are you watching the news? Just saw it. Frank's been asking around. Linda's been meeting with some of her old victims, claiming she has evidence you're running the same schemes she did. Says she came back to make things right. The laugh that escaped me didn't sound human. Make things right? By destroying me? Harmony, Laura interrupted, staring at her phone. Your Henderson project just lost its primary investor. The walls closed in. The Henderson project was my biggest deal yet, a mixed-use development that would have cemented my reputation. Without that investor, I need air, I muttered, heading for the door. The elevator opened before I reached it. Mia stepped out, looking perfectly innocent in her university sweater and jeans. Harmony, I was just coming to... Save it. I grabbed her arm, pulling her into the empty conference room. How long have you been helping her sabotage me? What? Don't lie to me. I slapped the business newsletter on the table. Anonymous sources, property tours, competing bids. You're not here to know me, you're here to destroy me. Something shifted in Mia's expression, a hardness I recognized from Linda's face. You don't understand. Mom said what? That I deserved it? That I had this coming? That you stole everything from her? Mia's voice cracked. Her clients, her reputation, her chance to start over. She said you turned everyone against her. I laughed, the sound sharp as broken glass. Is that what she told you? Did she mention the $500,000 she stole? The lives she ruined? Ask her about the money Dad spent years paying back. Ask her about... You're lying, Mia said, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. Am I? Check the court records. They're public. See who's really telling the truth. My phone buzzed again. Another investor pulling out. Get out, I said quietly. And tell Linda something for me. Tell her I understand now. Why she came back. What she really wants. I stepped closer, watching Mia flinch. Tell her she taught me well. Everything I know about revenge, I learned from her abandonment. Mia backed away, her composure cracking. This isn't what I didn't know. Yes, you did. You just didn't care. Like mother. Like daughter. After she fled, I stood in the conference room, watching my city through the windows. Somewhere out there, Linda was orchestrating my downfall, using my own sister as a weapon. She'd taken everything from me once before. Never again. I pulled out my phone and dialed Uncle Frank. Remember those records you kept? About Linda's schemes? I need everything. It's time to show Mia exactly who her mother really is. The game had changed. Linda wanted to replay history? Fine. But this time, I'd write the ending. Uncle Frank's box of evidence sat unopened on my kitchen counter while Ben paced behind me. 3 days of staring at it, and I still couldn't bring myself to lift the lid. You don't have to do this, Ben said, touching my shoulder. We could still go to the authorities. I shrugged off his hand. With what? Circumstantial evidence and an 18-year-old scandal. Then walk away. Sell the Henderson project, start fresh somewhere else. The suggestion hit like a slap. Run away? Like she did? The doorbell rang before Ben could respond. Laura stood outside, clutching her tablet. Her face told me everything. How bad? I asked, letting her in. The Henderson investors are filing a lawsuit. They're claiming fraud, saying you misrepresented the property's value. She paused. Linda's name is on the filing, as an expert witness. The room tilted. I steadied myself against the counter, accidentally knocking Frank's box. Papers spilled across the floor. Old contracts, newspaper clippings, photographs. One caught my eye. A younger Linda standing beside a man I didn't recognize, both smiling at some construction site. The date stamp. 3 months before she left us. Who is that? Ben asked, picking up the photo. My phone buzzed. Mia. I ignored it. There's more, Laura said quietly. The lawsuit mentions specific dates and transactions. Things only someone with inside access would know. The implications hit me like ice water. I thought of all the times I'd left Mia alone in my office during our coffee meetings. How many documents had she photographed? How many files had she accessed? I trusted her, I whispered. Even knowing who her mother was, I still... Harmony. Ben's voice was strange. He held up another photo from Frank's box. You need to see this. The same man from the first photo, but newer, standing next to Mia at what looked like a graduation ceremony. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. My phone buzzed again. This time I answered. Stop digging, Mia said without preamble. Mom says, who is he? I cut her off. The man in the photos. Your father. Silence. Did Linda tell you how she met him? That he was Dad's business partner before she destroyed everything? You don't understand, Mia started, but I was already pulling more papers from the box. Property deeds, investment contracts, all transferred to him right before she left. She didn't just steal from Dad's friends. She set him up to take the fall while she ran off with his partner. That's not... And now you're doing the same thing to me. The laugh that escaped me was bitter. Like mother, like daughter, right? We needed to know if you were like her, Mia's voice cracked. Dad said she probably taught you her tricks, that you'd try to take everything. I hung up. The room spun as everything realigned. We'd all been playing different games. Linda wanted revenge. Mia wanted validation. And I'd been so focused on protecting myself, I'd missed the bigger picture. The lawsuit, I said to Laura. Who's the presiding judge? She checked her tablet. Judge Marcus Reynolds. Reynolds? I repeated. Another piece clicked. Dad's old golf partner. The one who helped cover up Linda's crimes to protect the community's reputation. Ben grabbed my arm as I reached for my keys. Where are you going? To see my father. I shook him off. There's more to this story. Dad protected Linda back then, convinced Reynolds to bury the evidence. I need to know why. You're not thinking clearly, Laura warned. This is exactly what they want, to make you act rashly, make mistakes. No. I gathered the scattered papers, my mind racing. They want me to run, to hide, to be ashamed, like Dad was. But I'm not him. I turned to Ben and Laura, seeing the concern in their faces. I've spent my whole life trying not to be Linda, but maybe that's been the problem. Maybe it's time to beat her at her own game. What are you going to do? Ben asked quietly. I picked up the photo of Linda and her lover, the man who'd helped destroy my family once and was trying to do it again through his daughter. I'm going to make them wish they'd never heard of the Henderson Project. I grabbed my keys. And then I'm going to take everything they have, just like they taught me. The security guard at Linda's office building barely glanced at my borrowed maintenance uniform. Amazing what doors open when you look like you belong. Even more amazing what people leave in their desk drawers when they think no one's looking. Linda's office computer hummed to life. Password protected, of course, but I'd watched Mia type it in during one of our sisterly coffee meetings. Mother's birthday. How touching. You shouldn't be here. I didn't turn around. Hello, Mia. I could call security. But you won't, I kept scrolling through files. Because then you'd have to explain why you're here at midnight, too. She moved closer, her reflection in the monitor showing uncertainty. What are you looking for? The truth. For once. I opened another folder. Like why Judge Reynolds' wife suddenly invested $2 million in your mother's new development company last month. That's confidential. Or why 3 of my former clients received anonymous emails about building code violations that never existed. I swiveled to face her. Did Linda dictate those emails, or did you write them yourself? Mia's face hardened. You don't understand what's at stake. Then explain it to me, sister. The word tasted like poison. Explain why you're helping them destroy me. Because you destroyed them first, her composure cracked. Dad lost everything because of your father's lies. Mom had to start over with nothing. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet office. Is that what they told you? That Dad was the liar? My phone buzzed. Laura's text. Linda just entered the building. Show me, Mia demanded suddenly. If you have proof they're lying, show me. I pulled out Uncle Frank's file. Bank transfers, property deeds. All moved to your father's name before Linda ran. She didn't start over with nothing. She started over with everything she stole. Mia's hands shook as she read. This could be fake. Like the evidence against me in the Henderson lawsuit. Her head snapped up. Something flickered in her eyes. Doubt, maybe fear. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? The lawsuit claims I falsified property values. Funny how that's exactly what Linda did 18 years ago. Almost like she's following a script. Footsteps in the hallway. Mia's eyes darted to the door. Choose now, I said quietly. Help me expose the truth or go down with them when I do. You're bluffing. You have nothing concrete. I have everything. I turned the monitor toward her, including emails between Linda and Judge Reynolds discussing how to fast-track the lawsuit. Interesting reading, especially the parts about you. The footsteps grew closer. Mia's breathing quickened. They're using you, I pressed. Just like they used Dad. Once they get what they want. Stop. Her voice cracked. Just stop. The door handle turned. Mia moved suddenly, grabbing the files and shoving them into my hands. Backstairs. Third floor has a broken security camera. I hesitated. Why? Because I need to know. Her eyes met mine. The whole truth, not just their version. Linda's voice carried through the door, speaking to someone. Mia pushed me toward the emergency exit. Tomorrow, she whispered. The cafe on 4th. Bring everything you have. I slipped through the door as Linda's key turned in the lock. Through the closing gap, I heard Mia's voice, perfectly casual. Oh, hi, Mom. I was just checking those investment reports you wanted. Outside, rain had started falling. I clutched the files to my chest, mind racing. Was Mia truly switching sides or setting another trap? Either way, I had what I came for. Proof of Linda's manipulation of the lawsuit, evidence of judicial misconduct, and something unexpected. A draft email to Mia's father discussing their contingency plan if she proved unreliable. My phone buzzed again. Ben this time. Your father knows what you did. He's waiting at the bakery. I stared at the message, rain soaking through my stolen uniform. Dad had always chosen silence over confrontation when it came to Linda. What would he say now that I was choosing a different path? The files felt heavy in my arms, 18 years of secrets and lies, finally exposed. Tomorrow, Mia would either help me use them or try to bury them again. Either way, there was no going back now. I headed toward the bakery, toward whatever judgment waited there. Linda had taught me about revenge, but Dad had taught me about courage. Time to show them both what I'd learned. The real estate conference buzzed with artificial cheer as I adjusted my presentation slides. Linda sat in the front row, Mia beside her, both wearing identical expressions of polite interest. They thought they had me cornered. The lawsuit had frozen my assets. The Henderson project was in ruins. Even my own father had warned me to back down. They had no idea what was coming. Our next speaker, the moderator announced, Harmony Walsh, discussing urban development trends. I took the podium, my USB drive heavy in my hand. Not my prepared presentation, something much more interesting. Thank you, I said, scanning the crowd. Judge Reynolds in the third row looking uncomfortable. Several of Linda's investors scattered throughout. Perfect. I'd like to discuss something more relevant than market trends. Let's talk about fraud. The first slide appeared. Linda's email to Judge Reynolds about fast-tracking the lawsuit. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Specifically, how to orchestrate a hostile takeover using false litigation and judicial misconduct. Linda's smile froze. Mia half rose from her seat, but Linda grabbed her arm. 18 years ago, this woman stole $500,000 from our community. I clicked to the next slide. Bank records, property transfers, all bearing Linda's signature. Now she's back to do it again, using the same playbook. This is slander, Linda called out, but her voice shook. Is it? Another click. The email about Mia being unreliable appeared. Even your own daughter isn't safe from your schemes. Mia's face went white. She turned to Linda, who was already reaching for her phone. Security! Linda snapped into it. Now! I kept going, racing against time. The Henderson lawsuit? Orchestrated by Linda and Judge Reynolds to... The microphone cut out. Security appeared at both doors. You're making a mistake, Linda said, her voice carrying in the sudden silence. That evidence was obtained illegally. Breaking and entering computer fraud. She's the criminal here. The crowd shifted, uncertain. I saw investors exchanging glances, reporters scribbling notes. Ask her about the money, I challenged. Ask her where it really went. Ask Judge Reynolds about those offshore accounts. Enough! The judge stood abruptly. This is a private business matter that... That what? Mia's voice cut through the chaos. She stood, trembling. That you're trying to cover up. Again? Linda's eyes widened. Mia, sit down. No. Mia pulled out her phone. I recorded everything. Your meetings, your plans, what you really wanted from this lawsuit. The room erupted. Linda lunged for Mia's phone, but she was too late. The recording was already playing, her own voice filling the conference hall. Once we destroy her reputation, everything she built becomes ours, just like last time. Security reached me as Judge Reynolds stormed out. One of Linda's investors was already on his phone, looking furious. Cameras flashed. "You're under arrest," the officer said, producing handcuffs. I didn't resist. I'd known this was coming. Sometimes you have to sacrifice everything to win. "Wait," Mia pushed through the crowd. "I have evidence that she's telling the truth. Linda forced me to—" "Don't." Linda's voice was ice. "Remember who you are, whose daughter you really are," Mia faltered. In that moment of hesitation, I saw 18 years of manipulation at work. She was just as trapped as I had been. The handcuffs clicked shut. As security led me out, I caught glimpses of the aftermath, reporters swarming Linda, investors demanding answers, Mia standing alone in the chaos, looking lost. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Ben or Laura, warning me it was too late, or Dad saying he'd told me so. It didn't matter now. Outside, rain fell again. Fitting. The officer guided me toward his car while photographers called my name, asking for comments. "Was it worth it?" Linda's voice carried across the parking lot. She stood under an umbrella watching my arrest with something like satisfaction. "Destroying yourself just to expose me?" I turned to face her one last time. "You taught me well, Mom. Sometimes revenge is worth any price." The police car door opened. As I ducked inside, I caught a final glimpse of Mia through the conference center windows. She was staring at her phone, still holding the evidence that could save or damn me. The door slammed shut. Through the rain-streaked window, I watched my carefully built world crumble. But in the ruins, I saw something else. The first cracks in Linda's perfect facade. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something true. The holding cell door opened with a metallic screech. I expected another detective. Instead, Mia stood there, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "You have 5 minutes," the guard said. I stayed seated on the bench. "Come to gloat?" "To explain," Mia's voice trembled. "About the recordings. Save it. I saw your true colours at the conference." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You saw what Mum needed you to see. Just like everyone else." Before I could respond, the cell door opened again. Linda swept in, immaculate despite everything, that familiar artificial smile plastered on her face. "Family reunion," she said. "How fitting." Mia stiffened. I noticed her thumb moving over her phone screen, but Linda's attention was fixed on me. "You really thought you could beat me at my own game?" Linda's smile hardened. "I taught you everything you know about revenge, remember?" "Not everything." I met her gaze. "Dad taught me about patience." "David," she laughed. "That weak man who couldn't even protect his own investments." "That man," Mia interrupted, "who paid back every penny you stole." Linda's head snapped toward her daughter. "What did you say?" "I found the records." Mia's voice strengthened. "In your office that night. The real ones, not the fake story you fed me about Dad stealing everything." "You went through my private files?" "Like mother, like daughter." Mia's laugh was bitter. "Isn't that what you always say?" Something shifted in Linda's expression, a crack in the perfect mask. "Whatever you think you found, I found the truth." Mia held up her phone. And so did they. The cell door opened again. 2 FBI agents stepped in, followed by Dad and Uncle Frank. "Linda Walsh," one agent said, "we have some questions about your recent financial activities." Linda's composure slipped for just a second. "This is ridiculous. I'm the victim here. She's the one who—" "Who what?" Mia pressed play on her phone. Linda's voice filled the cell. "Once the lawsuit discredits her, transfer everything to the Cayman account. Judge Reynolds will make sure—" Linda lunged for the phone. Mia dodged, backing toward the agents. "I recorded everything, Mom. Every meeting, every threat, every lie." "You ungrateful little—" "What?" I stood finally. "Disappointment? Traitor? That's my role in this story, remember?" "The charges against Ms. Walsh are being dropped," the second agent announced, "in light of new evidence." Linda's perfect mask cracked completely. "You planned this? Both of you?" "No," Mia said quietly. "You did. The moment you decided to use me against my own sister." Dad stepped forward, looking older than I'd ever seen him. It's over, Linda. Just like last time. Nothing's over. Linda's eyes darted between us all, calculating. I still have the offshore accounts, the connections. Frozen, Uncle Frank said. Along with Judge Reynolds' assets. Turns out the FBI is very interested in judicial misconduct. The first agent produced handcuffs. Linda backed away, her designer heels clicking on concrete. Harmony. Her voice changed, softening to the mother I barely remembered. You don't want this. I'm still your mother. No. I felt 18 years of pain crystallize into clarity. You're just the woman who taught me what not to become. As they led Linda away, her threats echoing down the corridor, Mia turned to me. I needed to know the truth. About everything. That's why I kept playing along, recording everything. I know. I studied my sister, really my sister now, not just Linda's weapon. You needed proof, just like I did. Dad cleared his throat. The bakery's still open. If anyone wants coffee. Mia hesitated. I should probably go. My father already confessed, Uncle Frank cut in, trying to save himself once we presented the evidence. The cell door stood open. Beyond it, I could hear Linda's voice fading, still protesting her innocence. Some things never change. Coffee sounds good, I said finally. We have 18 years to talk about. Mia smiled tentatively. And maybe some of those lemon scones you're famous for? Dad's eyes watered. I'll make a fresh batch. We walked out together, leaving Linda's echoing protests behind. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about saving what they tried to destroy, including yourself. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in September. Linda's sentencing had drawn a crowd, reporters, former clients, curious onlookers. I sat apart from them, watching her being led away in handcuffs, her designer suit replaced by prison orange. She caught my eye as they guided her toward the transport van. For a moment, I saw something unfamiliar in her face. Defeat. Ms. Walsh? A clerk hurried down the steps. They found this while clearing out your mother's office. Given the circumstances, the judge thought you should have it. He handed me a leather-bound journal. The pages were worn, dates spanning back to before I was born. Before Linda became... Linda. Ready to go? Mia appeared beside me, her testimony still fresh in the air. She glanced at the journal. What's that? Maybe the truth. Maybe more lies. I tucked it into my bag unopened. Want to grab coffee? We walked past the media circus, ignoring their questions. Dad's bakery was quiet this time of day, the morning rush long gone. The bell chimed as we entered, and the scent of fresh bread wrapped around us like a shield. Ben looked up from where he was helping Dad with inventory. How'd it go? 20 years, I said, plus restitution. Dad's hands stilled on the flour bags. Good. Mia traced patterns in the sugar someone had spilled on the counter. My father took a plea deal. 5 years. I'm sorry, I said, meaning it. Don't be. They made their choices. She brushed the sugar away. We make ours. The journal pressed against my side, heavy with unspoken words. I pulled it out, set it between us. Together, Mia asked. I opened to the first page. Linda's familiar handwriting filled the margins, but the voice was different. Younger, scared. I can't tell David about the baby, I read. He's already working double shifts at the bakery. Another child would ruin everything we've built. Mia's breath caught. The entry was dated 7 months before she was born. Dad moved closer, his shadow falling across the pages. She never said anything true. I started to close the journal, but something fell out. A photograph, Linda holding infant me, looking nothing like the polished woman we knew. She was smiling, really smiling, flour in her hair, probably from the bakery. I remember that day, Dad said softly. She'd been up all night with you teething, but she still came to help with the morning rush. Before everything changed, I said. Before she changed herself, Dad touched the photo gently. The real Linda disappeared long before she actually left. The bell chimed again. Laura entered carrying files. The Henderson investors called. They want to restart negotiations now that everything's cleared up. Tell them I'll think about it. I closed the journal. Some things are more important than business. Like family? Mia asked quietly. Like truth? I pushed the journal toward her. Keep it. Maybe you'll find answers I couldn't. She shook her head. Maybe some answers aren't in journals. Maybe they're in what we do next. Dad disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a fresh batch of lemon scones. The same recipe he'd used when I was little, when Linda still smiled with flour in her hair. Your mother chose her path, he said, setting the plate between us. But she gave me 2 daughters. That's the only truth that matters now. Ben squeezed my hand under the counter. Outside, reporters still lingered, hungry for statements about Linda's sentencing. But in here, surrounded by the smell of fresh bread and coffee, those headlines felt like someone else's story. I watched Mia bite into a scone, closing her eyes just like I used to at her age. Some things, it seemed, ran deeper than Linda's influence. The journal sat between us, full of Linda's versions of truth. But maybe Mia was right. Maybe the real truth wasn't in those pages at all. It was here, in the choices we made next. So, I said, reaching for a scone, tell me about your college plans. Mia smiled, really smiled, and began to talk about her future. Not Linda's version, not her father's, her own. Sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying what hurt you. It's in building something better from the ruins.